Oh, there you are, and it's a pleasure coming your way. Today is a holiday, but we're here to serve you because you matter, and the AM show is always worth waking up for. It's another beautiful year. Welcome on the very first installment of the AM show in 2023. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and I'm privileged to come your way this morning. Now, coming up, we'll be serving you the news shortly, but right after that, we'll be joined by 2022 National Best Teacher Stella Jima Labi, who will be our guest. From there, we get into our big stories, and we'll be talking about, well, all things Ghana. Government in 2022 suffered some setbacks per the economy. We can talk about inflation, skyrocketing prices of goods, and the forcing of government to seek help from the International Monetary Fund. Well, a new year is here. It was beckoning, now it's here. We're looking at how we shall assemble those stakeholders to tell us what they expect this year and how government can navigate the turbulent waters for a better year. What exactly will our stakeholders have to share with us? Well, you can join us as we're joined by Dr. Joseph Obing, Guta president. He has been, very ferocious in dealing with labor matters. You remember from last year, industrial actions and all. Charles Appiah Kubi is executive secretary with the Ashanti Business Owners Association. We also have a pivotal person in the industry, Samson Asaki Awingobe, executive secretary, Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. And how about we bring in the academics, the economists? Professor Lord Mensah is a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Join us. You don't want to miss that conversation. But also on the show, we're speaking to Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Works and Housing Committee. If you've ever wondered about that ministry and the Parliamentary Committee and what they do, well, today, Parliamentary Correspondent Kweku Asante will be having a conversation with Andrew Dari Chiwite. It airs later this morning. Now, in December, there were a lot of activities here in Ghana involving foreigners. Maxwell Agbagba has been interacting with some of them. We know Afrochella will not be back. What are the circumstances around that? And what can we replace Afrochella with to get those foreigners coming to our country and still maintaining the touristic boost? Well, later on the show, you'd as always get the chance to join us with your thoughts on the issues we'll be discussing right here on the AM show. Don't you forget, the show is all about you. On that note, Ghana 4, Benjamin Akakpo is here to serve. Stay with us for the news. Thank you for staying with us for breakfast. Time now to serve you the news. And in our first story, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, is promising a positive outlook for security in the years ahead. The IGP, who was on a working and security monitoring tour of various police jurisdictions, visited the studios of Love FM and Insura FM, flanked by some members of the Police Management Board and officers of the Ashanti Regional Police Command. His visit was also to support and monitor security arrangements and deployments.
The Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, who was on a working and security monitoring tour on various police jurisdictions, visited the studios of Love and Insure FM, flanked by some members of the Police Management Board and officers of the Ashanti Regional Police Command. The IGP says his visit was to support and monitor security arrangements and deployments, interact with the media and members of the public, commuters and drivers to boost morale and general security.
Police in Mainsin Mokoboa, Mainsin police for Penifor, Minimiano Shohon, and in Colania, Yajumadea, Abrodia, ye free, Emra, Brunia, Ebanyana, Bessi Samri, Naya Twaswa, Yajumadea ma, as some Jess from Con, Abba or Minim. Ye Jumana Mount, and or some so the Oko Babia, or some from the war, Wakosum. Na ye ntwen bibi nsi ansa na mama boma hamane na ye disu akohwe they say there enemo na ekọ na eba and the asem no ba bisikura na enim na ya so anu ansa na asi na bibia yeboko.
Speaking to Love FM's Erastus Asari Donko, the police public affairs director, Chief Superintendent Grace Ansa Akofi, addressed the recent caution to religious leaders on doomsday prophecies. She says the Ghana Police Service is not against divination and prophecy, but will not countenance the communication of prophecy in any manner which violates human rights and the rule of law.
If I am a member of your church, you have a prophecy about me, and I am okay with it, fine. If I do not attend your church, I do not see how I become a basis for your prophecy. And you proclaim to the whole world how I'm going to die, how I'm going to have an accident, how something bad is going to happen to me, which creates an environment where other people can even exploit and harm such persons, which get their family members and loved ones live in constant fear of what is going to happen to our loved one. They say he's going to die. When is he going to die? You wake up and you are terrified. It creates a society of fear, unnecessary fear and anxiety for people. And if any of these persons raise a legal concern, what we are saying is that within the confines of the law, the police will do our work. So do your church, do your prophesying, do it all. But just remember that they are laws, and all of us are expected to stay within the laws in all our dealings.
Chief Superintendent Grace Ansa cited some achievements made by the Ghana Police Service, adding that the IGP and government have put in place measures to ensure sanity in the Ghana Police Service. Nana Boache Dampaya reporting for JoyNews.
Now, in our next story, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry has warned perpetrators of violence in the Boku conflict to stay away or be met squarely. Speaking in an exclusive interview with JoyNews on the margins of a party held for his constituents, Mr. Derry said Boku was an important part of the country, particularly its proximity to Burkina Faso, which was replete with insurgency and jihadist groups, and that they would not allow them to use the route into the country. JoyNews' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam now reports from Kokoligu. We'll bring you details of that story later. For now, we take a breather. We'll be right back on the AM News. As mentioned, we'll bring you details of that story later. But the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection and Member of Parliament for Wali Wali, Hajia Larba Zuwaira Abudu, has supported over 2,000 widows in her constituency in the spirit of the Yuletide. The widows, who are mostly poor people, can barely make ends meet. Martina Bugri reports.
Widows in the area usually shoulder the responsibility of the upkeep of their children when their husbands die. It becomes a burden when the woman is not educated and economically not empowered. This is the case of most of the over 2,000 women in the West Mamprisi municipality of the Northeast region who were part of this year's Widows Summit organized by the MP. Widow after widow gave an account of how they have had to struggle to clothe and feed their children. Akongo Esther said widows spend sleepless nights crying because of the pain they go through.
He was buried and left me with 3 children. One of them was just 1 month old. I was asked to go to my mother. And that is where I lived until Reverend Barnabas Abdullah gave me a parcel of land that I set up my work so that I can make some income to feed my children. Widows suffer a lot. You will smile outside, but cry when you are alone. We are therefore grateful to our mother, who has remembered us. God bless you.
In fact,
Another widow, Letitia Atamali, said it is a struggle each day to take care of her children and thanked the MP for the support.
Since my husband died, it has been a struggle. I and my children have been through a lot. It's not a joke. For their schooling and upkeep, I am always heartbroken. But we have kept managing, and by God's grace, they called us here today that our mother has some support for us. God bless you, Mom.
The MP for the area, Ajia Lariba Zuera Abudu, assured that her outfit is partnering some institutions to provide loan support for the women and skills training.
I'm not doing this alone. Other people are doing it in other jurisdictions. So look at it, look at the numbers, do a research and see whether government has to bring out a policy about widows. It's something we'll look at in my ministry. If it is feasible, why not? You can see that there are elderly ones among them. We'll see how we can roll them on leave. And I made mention of giving loans to them. I'll see, I'm going to get some loan facilities for them. And then we can train them into skill trainings.
Well, from Wale Wale, let's come back to Accra. And Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia joined the Church of Pentecost at Accra New Town on New Year's Eve. Speaking to the congregation, he said he was hopeful the country would weather the current economic storm and get back to its good old days.
People of God, we are all witnesses to the difficult and challenging times the world, and for that matter, our country, has been going through in recent times. It has been a period characterized by economic uncertainties and challenges that have caused even stronger nations to crawl. In times like this, we deploy all efforts humanly possible to enable us stay afloat on the surface of the challenges. But those who forget God and face the battle on their own cannot succeed. Steadfast love, His justice, and His compassion will guide us through this difficult period across the globe. As your government, we do recognize the difficulties we are experiencing in our country, but with renewed strength and hope in the word of the Lord, we are forever confident that we will ride this storm and turn things around to the glory of God. We have been working while at the same time trusting in God. We just don't trust in God and sit down and fold your arms and go to sleep. You have to work. So we have been working while at the same time trusting in God for His unfailing love, and thankfully, we are beginning to see the power of our Lord manifesting in the improvements in our economic outlook. We will continue to work hard and keep our trust in Him, for the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. I am very optimistic of Ghana's future, and my prayer is that 2023 should see us continue on the path of economic emancipation and accelerated development.
Well, let's go back now to that earlier story where Interior Minister Ambrose Derry has warned perpetrators of violence in the Boko conflict to stay away or be met with stiff resistance. Rafiq Salam now reports.
It's been the practice of Interior Minister Ambrose Derry since the days of yore and before he joined public service, holding New Year party for members of his clan at Kokolugu and its surrounding communities. Over the years, the patronage has expanded and is now held for all Nandam constituents and the region at large. It gives the revelers the opportunity to meet with duty bearers, especially Ambrose Derry, who also doubles as a member of parliament of the area, to make merry and also reflect on the successes and challenges of the previous year with a view to finding solutions to them.
We would continue to pursue the development agenda. One of them being employment. From independence to 2017, the public records show that 600,000 people were employed under Nana Dodako Akufo-Addo. That's far. We've employed 400,000 more. But we are the first to admit that unemployment remains a challenge. We are going to do our best. Yes, going into the new year, there's a ban on public and civil service recruitment. But I believe, you know, that way I speak of is neither civil service nor public service. You see road infrastructure, we need to do more. There are roads that deserve attention. It's all over the country. And it looks like now roads is the hottest demand that we have. And we are going to make sure that we work to make sure that the Upper West is not left.
Touching on the renewed Boko conflict, which has claimed over a dozen lives, he disclosed that though the security agencies have upped the ante, but that is only the first step, assuring the people that they will work to ensure that peace is returned to the area.
Into the new year, as we have got into new year, take more serious steps and strategies to make sure that Boko returns to peace that it deserves, that state institutions can operate, hospitals, schools can continue to operate, and our children continue to go to school. We have taken note, we have increased numbers as a transitional measure, but we are going to come up with strategies that you would soon see would greatly improve and we get back to more peaceful times.
Ambrose Derry, however, has this warning for the hawkish and nonconformists in Boko.
Show all those who want to be violent and non-conformist and not law-abiding, that we shall meet them squarely and let the law take its course. We are not going to allow a few people to take the peace and security of Boko and therefore Ghana at large for granted. We would come after them and we assure them that they can run but they cannot hide. Boko is a very important part of Ghana, especially that it shares border with Burkina Faso and Togo. And therefore, we would want that it is peaceful and secure to enable us fight off or ward off the extremists who want to migrate southwards.
The Interior Minister is hopeful that despite 2023 forecasted to be a difficult year, the government will support from the citizenry will sail through.
So for me, the new year is a year that we look up to. We are told that the world forecast is that it will be a difficult year. We believe the battle is still the Lord's. Government is going to work hard. And with the cooperation of Ghanaians, we will come out. And our president, Nana Akufo-Addo, better than our neighbors and the world at large. For now, all I can say is, I wish you again a happy new year and God bless us all.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam, Kokolibu.
Well, the new year has come with new things which will affect your expenditure and your finances. Parliament approved the 2.5% VAT rate before MPs went on recess, but the e-levy has been reduced to 1%. The Ghana Revenue Authority has also reversed a discount on import values of general goods. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante has more on all the things that have changed.
Despite a fierce pushback from the minority in Parliament, government got through a 2.5% increase in the VAT rate. This means that in this new year, you'll pay at least 2.5% more for goods and services. Whilst this may hit hard at your finances, there may also be some respite for you after the controversial e-levy was reduced from 1.5% to 1% with a daily threshold of 100 cedis, non-tax amount retained. Remember, road tolls are also back after it was cancelled in 2022, although government is yet to announce the full details in terms of which specific roads will be covered and on what terms. The Ghana Revenue Authority has also completely reversed discount on import values of general goods and home delivery value of vehicles, effective today, 1st January 2023. This means import duties and taxes will go up in Ghana city terms because the base amount on which duties and taxes are computed used to be discounted by 10% for vehicles and 30% for other imports. These discounts will no longer apply. Remember to adjust accordingly. Reporting for JoyNews, Kweku Asante.
Meanwhile, government is being advised to stick to prudent economic measures to restore the country's economy in this year. Some church leaders believe financial discipline from government is the first step towards economic recovery. Nanaya Ojima now reports.
Many across the Ashanti region, clad in white, welcomed the new year in churches. The night was characterized by singing and dancing in appreciation of God's favor. Persistent rise in cost of living led many to describe 2022 as a tough one. Though the appreciation of the cedi at the latter part of the year led to a decline in fuel prices, it is expected prudent measures are taken to sustain the gains. At Church of God, Abraham's Temple, head pastor Ernest Anyane Asari focused on leadership transforming the economy.
Wisdom is very important as long as development is concerned. We have a lot of dignitaries and professors in our society who have acquired a lot of knowledge, but their knowledge is not put into practice. And wisdom simply means that application of knowledge. And we are praying that God will give us that sense of wisdom so that all that they have learned so far, they will be able to put into practice to bring better Ghana.
Head pastor of Redemption Assemblies of God, Reverend Patrick Ajimanjebi, expects the citizenry to honor their part in efforts to restore the economy.
We should appreciate God for what He has done for 2022 because we've gone through so many things. The pandemic that led to the Russian war, the Russian-Ukraine war, in which we are still now. The increases in fuel prices and petroleum products and other things, the increase in goods and services and all these things. In fact, it has affected the church and individual businesses in the nation. But I want to encourage them that Ghanaians should exercise patience and then understand that the problem that we are going through, it is not only a Ghanaian problem, but it's a global crisis. And so we should understand the government and then pray for them and then give them the support. Because whatever, if we sing, we all sing together, we have only one Ghana. Why not support them and then help them so that we can all get out of this situation?
At Calvary Charismatic Church, the public is being urged to be financially disciplined in the wake of economic uncertainty. Joshua Obin is pastor at the church.
Once there's life, there's always hope. And there are many people that complained in 2022. But once we have life, we know that in 2023, there's still room that we can do better with the things that we are doing, whether you are working or whatever you are doing. There's something that God is still has plans for us, especially as Christians and as a nation.
Many are optimistic of success in the new year, despite uncertainties. For JoyNews, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
And on that note, we wrap up the news, but stay with us. The news review up next. Welcome on the news review belt of the AM show. Thank you for staying with us. We're joined by National Best Teacher Stella Jima Labi. She is our guest. Stella, I see you there. Good morning and Happy New Year. You would have to unmute, Stella.
Yeah, I've just done that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me too?
Okay, the sound is really low. I'm struggling to hear Stella, so we'll work out the technical details. We'll iron out any issues there are. Hello, Stella. Let's try this one more time. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Yes. Okay. I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Thank you so much for joining us. Last year you were here. We were talking about education, and you had been crowned National Best Teacher. I'm sure you're still basking in that glow, but let's start from 2022. How would you describe that year in terms of the economic landscape, in terms of your pocket? I know some good things happened apart from the National Best Teacher Award, but in a nutshell, how would you describe the year 2022?
So the year 2022 comes in different ways for people. It actually came differently for people. For me, I called it a testify year. Irrespective of I called it a testify year. Irrespective of all the hardships and everything that we were going through, I called it a testify year. Because from the beginning of the year, we were all battling with everything, but along the way, I say God came through for me. Yes.
So it's been a year of testimony for you, and obviously for all of us.
Yeah.
I heard rapper Sarkodie, for example, when my colleague Maxwell Agbaba interacted with him. When he was talking about the year, he said it had been a tough one, but he was all good because guess what? He had life. And that's one thing that we've all been blessed with. I'm Catholic, for example, and the Holy Father who had retired, the first in about 6 centuries, Pope Benedict XVI, he saw Christmas, but he didn't see the new year. So there are so many little blessings we take for granted, and that's an interesting point you make there. At least we should be grateful for those little ones. Well, having reflected on 2022, I would then shoot the question to you before we get to the news portals. What would be your resolutions for this year? Do you have any?
Okay, so I don't make resolutions every year.
Okay.
I do what I call progressive resolutions.
Oh, wow.
So, yes. So I call it progressive resolutions. The resolutions that I got down some years ago, I review them. If there are gaps, if there are some of the resolutions that I couldn't achieve, then I carry it forward. And so it's like a 5-year plan, 5-year resolution, and then I work on it progressively.
I see. So when did you last make a resolution, and how far along have you come?
I think the last time I made it was in 2018. And then this year, what I've done, I did that actually yesterday, was to pick a pen and a paper and review all the ones that I've achieved, and then all the ones that still needs to be worked on. And so that's what I'm doing now.
I see. That's interesting because when it comes to resolutions, a few years ago, I decided too that I wouldn't be making them every year, just following through. I mean, we all have some basics we want to work on. every year. Those set aside. Sometimes we say we want to do X, Y, Z. I think I'm somewhere in the middle between God's planning and my own planning and just putting in my best with everything I do. That is my policy. It's either I am doing it 100% or I am not doing it at all. And that is basically it. I feel that if I do it that way, it resonates, it reverberates through everything in the course of the year. You don't necessarily need to. Because I feel sometimes psychologically, people say, okay, so the house I am constructing, I want to get to maybe 70% by end of year. Then maybe like 2022, many factors come in. You've not even got to 15%. Now you're psychologically, you're not in the best of places. I think sometimes not being realistic is also part of why we feel like failures and all of that. So I have psyched up my mind, and I always remember that proverb. Man plans, God laughs.
But God executes.
But at the same time, you cannot just go without a plan. So plan, yes.
Of course.
But ensure that you understand that not everything may go according to plan. You must be malleable, and that's very important. But speaking of which, so we heard about, we know of the ban on predictions. Let's go to myjoyonline.com. We know about the ban on predictions and all of that. In fact, we heard the IGP this morning at Love and Insura FM talking about some of these developments. But we also heard of Owusu Bempa predicting death,
a lot of marriages,
civil war, and coups in 2023. And another counterpart of his, Nigel Gazy, also saying that the IGP for the Republic of Yempeno-Kware will be changed and Kwame Dramani will sit at the Jubilee House. It appears they are finding innovative ways of still prophesying. You remember the last time, what name did Nigel Gazy? Maybe my technical team will help me. Umwofia. Umwofia. What is your take on all of these?
Okay, so I know even from old, we got prophets prophesying in the good book, and they all. Now, all these prophecies that we saw in the past, we saw that they were in line with God's plan. Now, the problem here is that we cannot really testify whether all these prophecies that they are coming out with are from God or they are from them as individuals. But one thing is for sure, that God speaks in various ways. And one amazing thing is when we get these prophets trying to coin names for Ghana. So you hear a name like the Yempeno-Kware. And the Yempeno-Kware is literally associated to Ghana, right?
I mean, it's his tree that he is using. So hello, Stella.
All these prophecies. Hello, I can hear you.
Yes, go ahead.
All these prophecies are amazing to hear. But in the long run, we are all believing that the will of God will be done. And these prophecies, we have, the Bible also says that God reveals. But in his revelation, there are strategies to redeem.
It's an interesting point, and I'd just like you to focus on this. Don't you find it curious that a lot of the time these prophecies only come at the end of the year, when the year is wrapping up and it's the last month and it's Christmas and it's 31st watch night, and maybe crowds are being, the attention of crowds is being sought. Do you look at that side as well?
Of course. So it's a question that I'm sure a lot of people are actually battling with and looking for answers. So why is it that in March, we don't get any prophecy? Maybe the first quarter, the first half, but only on the 31st of December. Is it that God only speaks around that time? So it's something to look at. Do God only speak on 31st December? So it's quite baffling to know why the prophecies come along that line. I think it's something that we all have to look into, why they shelve and wait till 31st December before they bring all those prophecies.
Right, why they wait till or close to 31st December. But let no one mistake it. I know people, for example, who are very gifted and they prophesy and it happens. They are not the types who would say, oh, yes, of course, everything God reveals to redeem. And, you would notice another trend. They would usually say, this will happen, but if we pray. So if it happens, I said it. If it doesn't happen, they prayed against it.
We prayed.
It's pretty tricky. I was just on the 31st, the reading that was taken in church had to do with Elisha and when some of the neighboring nations wanted to attack Samaria, Israel to be specific, and how they had actually come to him because they realized that everything their king planned, there was a prophet in Israel who would reveal it. So they came to attack them. But guess what? The prophet had seen it, and he said to his servant who was distraught when the city was surrounded, look, those who are for us are many more than those who are against us. And then he asked for God to open his eyes, and he saw the angels and the chariots. Eventually, they were led into the town, blinded upon request of the prophet. I mean, these are things that happened and things that, we can still go back to and reflect on. But sometimes I ask myself, when these pastors make these allusions or projections, is it really God? Like I was saying, I know people who prophesy. People personally, I know, who prophesy to me, who prophesy to other people, and it happens exactly. So I believe in prophecy. But for some of these ones, I don't know. I honestly don't know. And I don't mince words. Some of them are charlatans. Let's just put it that way. Some of them are frauds. The question is, how do we rid our system of the chaff and leave the wheat? It's a spiritual matter. So I want to draw your attention to this. In Rwanda, it's been going on for years. Churches and mosques were closed down due to disciplinary issues. I'm talking about 700 plus of them. Why? There was a new clerical requirement that, for example, to head a church, to be pastor, to do this, to do that, to build a church, you had to have a university degree. And the purpose was to bring order, some sanity among churches. What do you think? Is it high time we got to that point? Because look, you build your house somewhere and someone is going around the community with a megaphone disturbing your sleep. It's good, preach the word of God. But sometimes on campus, I remember the University of Ghana, you're a student, you study deep into the night, you want to get some rest. Someone comes right behind your window and is blasting away. You're not the Antichrist, but you need some sleep. So I don't know, how do you think we can sanitize, the system?
Okay, so I don't think we can start going in the way of Rwanda, where you will need a university degree before you can pastor a church. Because there are several men of God who have never been to the university. However, they are able to study the word and they are able to share the gospel, okay? In our area of sanity, I think I love the IGP's line, okay? I'm sure you can see that since he started last year and this year, the prophecy has come down. The mode of communication of the prophecy has also been restructured. And so you cannot just come out and say anything that you claim you've been told by God, right? And so in our area of sanity, I think there should be a lot of trainings for the pastors. So we can have a lot of trainings for the pastors. We can have, so with the trainings, we can have retreats where they take them through a lot of, I think some of them need psychological treatment because the kind of prophecies that they bring out sometimes is quite questionable. So our sanity, the way we can sanitize our space is what has already been started by the IGP. And the other thing that I think can also be done is retreats, constant retreats for the pastors to help them pray more, to help them understand that before you bring out any prophecy, before you speak, it should be a clear hearing from God and not just from your instincts.
So let's look at some of the prophecies of Owusu Bempah, for example. I just want us to stay on this briefly. And sometimes I get concerned, Stella. So look at point 1. Local airlines could be involved in an accident that would shock the nation. He cautioned aviation authorities to be careful. According to him, the country could witness a lot of plane crashes in the new year. Okay, we would give that to him. I mean, every year there probably is something here or there. But let's give that to him and pray against it. But look at this. Some of them, it's almost as though, and again, I am not attacking prophecy. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are projections that probably the ordinary Kwame on the street, who probably has never been to school, would be able to make. He says, the world may experience another serious disease like COVID. Really? This happens practically every year or two. You know, from SARS to all the SARS strains of viruses to cerebrospinal meningitis and Ebola. And every year there's something. Okay? Then he says a prominent tree in the forest was chopped off by a catalyst and the trees were wailing. The trees were Ghanaians and the chopped tree a prominent person. Practically every year a prominent person will pass. In fact, last year, years back, we had former President Rawlings. Just last year, we had Professor Kwesi Botwe as well go, among a string of other personalities. Then he talks about a prominent person from the Christian fraternity may also lose his life. He called for prayers from the fraternity to avert the calamity. Whom? I mean, do you get it? It's so abstract. And these are things that will happen anyway. These are things that, like it or not, a prominent person in the Christian community, everyone could surmise that. What is interesting though, point 10, he warns of a possible coup in the country. He called on the presidency, the national security, and other state agencies to be on alert to avert the overthrow of government. I find that interesting because already last year, there had been some insinuation that maybe some members of the executive had to speak to the military, and that even before this, you remember the issue to do with, I've forgotten his name, the police officer who was supposed to be allegedly, together with a medical doctor, involved in coup plots and all of that. So this again is nothing new. I don't know whether you get what I'm saying, but the point is, some of these things are so commonplace. It's nothing extraordinary. It's something that anybody could surmise, project. You know?
Yeah. I feel that I was just looking at the issue of the airline and then coming down to most of the things that he outlined. Now, these airline issues, there is an airline, a local airline in Ghana that I will not mention the name. But the first time I made a mistake of sitting in that airline, I thought that was the end.
Really?
It was just like cho-cho in a pothole. That was terrible. And so you can actually predict that there are issues with some of the airlines that needs to be worked on.
Right. So even making a projection on that is a bit, commonplace, because some of these things, I get the point you're making. Some of the conditions of these aircraft are problematic. The local aircraft shuttling here and there. So if something happens, you don't go. But anyway, I mean, we can give them their props. Just to wrap the conversation, though, on that beat, it's interesting that some of the points are actually made. When you look at point 15, he says finances will be tough, but those faithful to God will have it easy. As though this had never been the case. It is always the case. Point 16, I couldn't help myself when I looked at that one. There will be a lot of marriages. Really?
Yeah.
No, really?
So the single ones should get ready, they'll be married.
Okay. And finally, he says, God has sent a white cloud of blessings to Ghana, but some malicious spirits are trying to block it. Again, who doesn't know that God blesses and the devil is always trying to rob us of those blessings? But I just wanted to get us thinking about some of these predictions that have been made. Let's talk a bit about corruption. In that last installment of Newsfile for the year 2022, the Speaker Series, we heard a number of prominent people speak. The CEO of DTI, and I loved what she said about our thinking and how we're often, even as children, we stymie the creativity of children. Yet we want them to go toe-to-toe with those in the West and other places that are allowed to explore, to grow, to speak, to express their minds. And I can say that I am who I am because I had a background that allowed me to express myself. But anyway, let's look at the other side. Another person who spoke was Kisia Jabing, the special prosecutor. And he said, I have not seen much commitment from government in fighting corruption. In fact, he has not, according to him, speaking on Newsfile, like I said, he said that had to be changed in order for the country to make meaningful inroads in the fight against corruption. And quoting him, he says, on the part of the government, is the government ready for the fight against corruption? From where I sit, I have not seen much. I have not seen much commitment. I have heard lip service on too many occasions paid to the fight against corruption. We lose over $4 billion every year when it comes to corruption. And guess what? We're going to the IMF for a bailout for $3 billion. Even if we were able to shave off, 75% of the corruption or plug those loopholes, probably, who knows, wouldn't be going to the IMF. What do you think about that situation?
So I think that it actually starts from our backgrounds. This morning at dawn, I was having a discussion with my husband, and we were talking generally about the mentality of people as they grow up and as they seek further studies. So I was telling him that I would love to groom other young people who would love to go and study outside and come back with the mentality of changing the scope. Okay? And not with the mentality of coming back to accrue wealth for themselves. The corruption starts from the beginning. Now, let me take the point of myself as a teacher and then in the classroom. The children are cheating in examination and people support them to cheat. The children see things going wrong and other people think that, oh, it's their time, let them enjoy, let them do it. So the foundation itself is shaky. And because the foundation is shaky, the issue of the corruption, it will take a while for us to actually drive it away.
So you agree with the special prosecutor that the mechanisms to stem the tide of corruption are not in place. And once we continue like this, corruption will also keep, staying to remain a problem.
Of course, they are not really in place. Because if you are signing, let's take it, you are signing a check, okay? And there are proper measures in place. You know that at the beginning, this is what is going out. This is what is coming in. This is what this is to be used for. And it should be used appropriately. And there are proper allocations. So I've been reading some few reforms that maybe in our subsequent discussions, not today, I will share with you. I've been reading some few reforms on education, some of the things that have been done, and the corruptible nature of things that are happening. So there is a contract given for a structure to be put in place, and the thing has been left uncompleted. Why? Because there is somebody somewhere looking and waiting to have a share of the money that has been given. And that is the corruption. And the sad part is that people are not opening up, are not ready to talk about it. You remember Martin Amidou? Right. Martin Amidou had the same challenge. He was talking about that and people tagged him. And now we get the current prosecutor also talking about the same thing. That means the canker is there, and until it's rooted from the foundation, my dear, I don't think we are going to see any change now.
change not likely if we keep things the same way. Let's look at the story. I found it interesting. So Ghana is behaving like a mad person, mad in quotation marks, and that's according to Dr. Perby, global CEO of the HUD Group and best-selling author. This was during a presentation on the topic, Officially Broke and Certifiably Mad, in which he stressed on the folly of governments and individuals in the country. According to him, he says, the repetitive resort to the IMF classifies the country as a, quote, mad person, adding that the approach yields the same results every time. And he asks, why are we mad? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and again and expecting a different result, most famously attributed to Albert Einstein and to other individuals and groups. We've been to the IMF 17 times, okay? We're back here. And the interesting thing, I noticed that over the weekend we were sharing some of those videos. The finance minister said, we are not going to the IMF. There is no way we're going to the IMF. In fact, we're a proud nation and we have the resources and we can do this. It was re-echoed by my friend, Dr. John Kuma, the deputy finance minister. Here we are with the IMF. They said there would be no haircut, according to Mr. President. Kojo Oppong came and gave his explanation of it. There is a haircut definitely happening. They said, individual bondholders, you're exempt. There was talk about whether some people had used confidential information and then moved their bonds to become individual bondholders. Barring all of that, we were told individual bondholders would not be a part of this. Now they are. So I don't know. When it comes to the economic structures of our country, for you as a teacher, what do you see and what would you like to see in 2023?
Economic structures. So there are no structures. I don't think there are any structures in place from where I sit. Because if there are proper structures in place in terms of economics, I don't think most of the challenges that we are facing, we would get here. So from the point that I'm coming from the angle that I sit as a teacher, as somebody who is looking at a new phase of learning, a new phase of young people who are pushing the agenda for change and transformation. There are no structures. And until we see structures, proper structures in place, I beg to differ, but we will not stop going to IMF. I was at a place, I won't mention the place, but where I found myself, no, I should mention, I was at a place recently, and on the desert, you see beautiful things rise up. And this is here, Dubai. So as part of my award, they added the promise and I was taken to Dubai.
Right.
And when I got to Dubai on our tour, I just couldn't believe that a desert can be distinguished. And this is a desert, and they have been able to plant trees.
Yes.
Now, it will amaze you how they even get water supply for the trees. And I saw holes down there. So those who are critical about some things like myself, I was curious and looking at how they were doing things. And the trees had water holes in them, and that supplies water to the trees. This is a country we are in where we have constant rainfall. And that is a country that they have rainfall twice in a year. Unless it's induced, what is wrong? What is wrong is that a lot of things are not well taken care of. A lot of things are not structured. And because a lot of things are not structured, we will keep going back. What needs to be done, what needs to be done is to have a governing policy, a policy that nobody can manipulate with, no matter the change in government. And so this is a binding principle that, let's say, we are going to use for the next 20 years. And whoever comes is to follow that principle, is to follow that, so that If there are projects in place, the projects get completed and not abandoned for new ones to start. Because as we start new projects, a lot of money goes into it. Meanwhile, one has been started and needs to be completed. Yeah, and so we have proper structures in place. Change is inevitable.
Let's do a few more local stories before we go on the international front. There are a few stories from the BBC that I'd like us to take a look at. One of them about a Ghanaian. But this one, 2023 promises to be a good one. That is according to President Akufo-Addo. And of course, we also heard the Vice President right here in Accra Newtown visiting a church and talking about the situation and saying that everything is going to be well and all of that. We all hope so. But the economists will tell you that, and finance people will tell you that we need to get our strategy right, else we'll be laughing on the wrong ends of our mouths. So I don't know whether this optimism is based on, like you said, anything tangible. And I find something interesting. We have the finance minister who's been quoting the Bible for God knows how long and said we wouldn't get to the IMF. We are at the doorstep of the IMF. In fact, we're hoping to be allowed to enter. We have the president who often will be quoting the Bible here and there. We all remember the battle is the Lord's. And now I've noticed a trend, and I say this respectfully. The vice president is also, wherever he goes, he's quoting the Bible a lot, and I find it curious. Yes, let's do religion, but let's also work. I don't know whether you get the point I'm making on this one. I just find it a bit curious.
I do clearly. And I think I said this earlier. Until a lot of things are restructured. Because we can preach the gospel, we can do religion, we can say everything that God has said we should do. But if our attitudes are not transformed, our attitude and our conduct, if they are not transformed, then the change we seek to see and we are desiring is questionable. And so we can preach what the Bible is saying, we can talk about what Adam has said, what this person has said, so and so and so. But if proper structures are not put in place, I repeat that, there is a question mark.
There is a question mark. Let's do these two stories from the BBC. I found them very interesting, and it's from BBC News. New York approves composting of human bodies. You're a teacher. I'm sure you definitely know of compost in agriculture and all of that. Now, a person can now have his or her body turned into soil after his or her death, which is seen as an environmentally friendly alternative to a burial or cremation. Also known as natural organic reduction, the practice sees a body decompose over several weeks after being shut in a container. In 2019, Washington was the first U.S. state to legalize it. Colorado, Oregon, Vermont, and California followed suit. Now, this makes New York the sixth American jurisdiction to allow human composting. Some would tell you that, look, we're stretching this a bit too far. Human dignity comes into play. But others will tell you, well, look at Ghana, for example. You spend so much on funerals and money that you could invest in other people's lives. What's your take on that? Hello, Stella?
I think I buy into their vision. Why do you think they are developing? In burying people, the resources that are to be used in taking care of an immortal body, a body with no life, a body that can be used for nothing. Why do we waste resources on it? And so I think I buy into that. If I have to read further to check whether it's good for the consumption after we are dead, our body decomposes and they are using it to grow things, to do a lot of things for other human beings to consume something, we have to research further to see the benefits. Is it really beneficial to the health of those who are alive? Now, is it beneficial to the economy? So we are looking at our lifestyle. Is it good for the health? So in the area of health, is it good for the economy? If it's good for the health, good for the economy, why not? It can be adopted. But until then, a proper research has to be conducted, because so far only 6 states have adopted that strategy of the composition of the human body. And so if other further studies can be done, then I think we can really confirm that, okay, it is good. Let's go for it. It will save resources. It will save the lands. It will save the cost of money that we put into all that.
Well, just to conclude our conversation this morning, also on the BBC, I found an interesting story. The Ghanaian giant reported to be the world's tallest man. We've actually had, a piece on him before. This is on BBC News Pidgin. And I'm talking about the gentleman who is known by his popular name, Awuche, which in Hausa means let's go. Yeah. He was reported to, have attained the height of 9 feet and 6 inches. But in fact, when they checked, he was 7'4", which is actually just about less than a foot or so less than the one who holds the Guinness World Record. That is Sultan Kösen, who is 40 and resides in Turkey. But at least he's still growing. Interestingly, he's still growing owing to the syndrome, gigantism, which he suffers. And we can only wish Awuche the best, because this also comes with other complications. And I know people have reached out to him. I hope more people continue to do that. That's the note on which we'll wrap. Any final words, Stella?
Okay, so Awuche's condition is medical. Yes. And I don't know if something can be done to help him, because holding the record alone is not enough if you are not healthy and if you cannot live long. So my final message to our viewers this morning is that a lot of prophecies have come in. People have set their resolutions. A lot of things are going on in the economy. But at the end of the day, you are the driving force to your seats. Because whatever good thing that is going to happen to you this year, you have got a lot of role to play. And so let's all continue contributing our quota to the development of Ghana. This is where we find ourselves. This is where our costs have been cut. And so if we don't put in all our effort to see things better, we will keep crying and we will keep lamenting about the state of Ghana. So good morning to you all, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Stella, for having joined the conversation. 2022 National Best Teacher Stella Jima Labi was our guest for the News Review. Just to chip in that for Awuche, every time he goes to hospital, he needs about $50, the equivalent of £40, because we don't have some of the basics that our hospitals require. And Stone Boy has also become the first Ghanaian artist to reach over 100 million streams on Audiomack, and that's an interesting feat. Well, from the News Review, we settle now for some sports, and we'll take a break and bring you that. Do stay.
Ceremony of the 2023 African Games is just 12 months away. As you can tell in the background, workers are working day and night to ensure this is ready for the competition next year. Out of the 23 different sporting events that will be held for the 2023 African Games, as many as 21 of them will be held at the Boteman Sports Complex. The ultimate question, of course, remains whether
contractors will be done in time for the competition. At the moment, construction appears to be at the starting phase, and there are fears work will not be completed in time for the start of the games. But chairman of the local organizing committee, Dr. Ofosu Asare, remains confident Ghana will be ready in 12 months' time.
That's the hope of everyone, all of us here, the LOC members, the minister, and I'm sure every Ghanaian is expecting us to finish and be able to host the games next August, and that's the time. Together with the African Union, we have the timetable for that. That is the hope. We are looking forward to getting the needed funding to get a job going, to get a job done. And the funding doesn't come from us, it comes from government. And recently we might have heard about the 750 million Exim Bank loan that government managed to secure, the parliament approved, and out of that we are to have 140 million going towards infrastructure. And let me also say that that's for infrastructure. We haven't even looked at operational costs, procurement and what have you. So a lot of money is involved if you are hosting the games, and you must be prepared to put in money. You know, if you have money and you are building, you can even build during the day, build in the middle, have two shifts, have workers coming in and all that. And you can beef up your staff and get the work done as quickly as possible. Yeah. So in my view, if we don't get the money on time, or if we delay in giving them the money, then it means we cannot meet the timelines. And if we can't meet the timelines, then it's going to affect the time schedule for the games.
I've reassured Ghanaians, both in Parliament, by delivering a statement and that the games will come on and answer questions. As long as government is concerned, if there is no any force majeure, any major thing like pandemic, the games will come on. Because we are ready and we are working to ensure that the games come on, and government is committed to it.
The Youth and Sports Minister, Mustafa Youssef, has an even bigger vision for the Boteman Sports Complex once completed.
What government is looking is not just for the games, but we are looking beyond the games, where we have a sports of excellence center, or a center where we can host any international games. Commonwealth Games have never come to Africa. Is there opportunity that once we finish with this infrastructure, we can even put in bid in the near future for Commonwealth Games? It's possible once we're able to put this infrastructure in place. And the benefit will live beyond just these African Games.
Ghana was awarded the rights to host the 13th African Games back in 2018. At the time, the country conceived the idea of hosting the Games in 3 cities, namely Accra, Cape Coast and Kumasi. But the African Union Commission, the organization in charge of the Games, kicked against the multi-city approach, preferring to concentrate the Games in one city, in line with previous traditions. In November 2020, after months of delays, government finally announced plans to construct a 50,000 Olympic stadium at Boteman to serve as venue for the Games.
The Boteman structure, whose construction begins today, will be equipped with the following facilities in accordance with international standards, and will be capable of hosting any international competition.
But 8 months later, those plans were shelved, and government instead adopted a hybrid approach that will now see the Legon Sports Stadium serving as the center of the Games. This very spot will be where all of the starting blocks will be, especially for the shorter distance races like the 100 meters. All records that will be set, that will be broken, will start right here. And for now, as you can see, it looks like just sun, with the tracks yet to be fixed. As to when that will be done remains a big question.
I'm very positive because the contractors are on site. We have few challenges, let me admit, because once we had the right to host the game, COVID set in, and that was the main reason why we even adopted a hybrid, because of the timing. Then also, currently, we had a financial arrangement with Cal Bank to raise the funding for the facility, the provision of these current facilities that we are having. But there were a few challenges of Car Bank being able to raise the funding for the contractors to keep them on track of the timelines. But government have taken steps to make sure that they resolve those challenges and get the contractors complete on schedule. So as long as we get the financing right, we are able to get the funding to the contractors on time, the project will be delivered for us to be able to host the game.
This will be the venue of some of the aquatic activities. 2 swimming pools, one of it a warm-up pool, the other competition pool with seating capacity of up to 1,000 people will be here. There will be 5 tennis courts, including a center court that can seat up to 1,000 spectators. There will be 3 multi-sports halls, which will house indoor sporting events such as basketball, badminton, table tennis, volleyball, among others. But the work that remains to be done here is enormous. The majority of the work on the Legon Stadium has gone into fixing the seats, but vital aspects such as the competition tracks and adjoining facilities remain a long way from completion. Construction on the all-new 8-lane warm-up track has started, and work appears to be progressing steadily. But at the time of Joy Sports' visit, construction had paused. Work is also progressing on the rugby field situated on the Legon campus, venue for the rugby competition in the African Games. The Liman Hostel on campus will accommodate the athletes and will serve as the athletes' village, but even those require major upgrades to meet the competition standards.
I inspect every month just to make sure the contractors are on site. And so far, all the 3 contractors doing upgrading the games village, because the halls are there, but you need to put certain facilities, heating facilities for hot water and warm water. These are requirements of the games. You need to put air conditioning. Those facilities don't have that. We have to provide that. The contractors are on site. You need to have security. If you go to the games village now, the security fence is done. You need to have a restaurant where they will converge and have. We are developing, so you have opportunity to visit all that. You need to have a medical center where injuries and minor injuries can be treated. All these are things that we are working on, and I'm very positive that we are going to. It's not only Ghana, even Birmingham. If you have an opportunity of going to Birmingham, their facility, they couldn't complete all before the games.
History, the African Games history is replete with occasions where some countries had to shift. Some of the games had to shift to either the following year, 6 months addition and all that. So you have that window in the worst case scenario. We have that window. But because of the Olympics, we are hoping that 2024 will be, we know that 2024 will be very busy.
Of course.
So, but for that, we would have said, okay, after all, there's 2024. What's the big deal if we are not able to finish in 2023 or host it in 2023? But because of that, so it appears that we have our back to the wall, and we must try as much as possible to find money to finish the facilities. Even in the worst case scenario, we still will need money to use for the existing facilities. Let me give you a case in point. The Independence Square.
Yeah.
If you have money, you can put in temporary structures and have facilities there and host the games.
Games village.
Yes. Here, for instance, we need to, if we're going to use it, but we need to have money to also refurbish. You know, the lavatory and all those places. They need a bit of upgrading. And anywhere like Bukom and all those places, wherever even you want to raise temporary structures, you need money.
You do.
Yeah, so that is where the money issues is extremely cardinal. But I have every belief that as a nation, we will not let this opportunity slip by. We will not allow ourselves to be embarrassed. The president has promised us on numerous occasions that the game will come on board and definitely will host the African Games. who am I to doubt the president?
But outside of the more documented infrastructural challenges, there are other critical issues threatening the organization of the African Games.
A bit about the dispute. The Anoka-UCSA dispute is that during the Moroccan Games 2019, AU signed an agreement with Anoka and UCSA.
Yeah.
In the contract, it did not have any time limit. So in their view, that contract was to cover our games, 2023 games.
And what are the terms of, what are the conditions, the contentious conditions here?
The contentious conditions are simply that Anoka will handle the management and marketing rights of the games.
Okay.
But these rights were given to Ghana when we signed the protocol agreement with them.
Yeah.
With AU.
Oh.
And the technical aspect will be handled by UCSA.
Yeah.
Okay, the confederation
of course,
and all that.
Sporting federations.
Yes. Anoka hasn't got a problem with we handling the marketing right. We don't also have a problem in ceding out the marketing rights to them because after all, they have been in the game for a while and they have the connections and contact. I mean, if you are doing a business, if you want 10% of zero, it's zero. If you want 10% of 1 million, it's something. So if they can bring in money for us to also have some, that is fine. So we don't have a problem that we are trying.
But AU does.
AU does, because AU doesn't want to ship grounds.
Yeah.
But there's pressure on AU to ship grounds. We hosted them in Ghana, for instance, and Anoka and UCSA were saying that it is no fault of Ghana that
they have the marketing rights.
That they have this, that they have this problem because they didn't sign. They haven't signed any.
Sign that contract.
So because of that, they didn't want to do anything that will impact adversely on the games. You know, when two elephants are fighting, the grass suffers. So they were prepared to also shift grounds a bit. They came out with a proposal. AU stuck to its grounds, and that is where the problem is at the moment. But now they are shifting grounds. They are arranging for us to meet, hopefully very soon, next month. There are 2 meetings lined up. They've been able to get somebody who will be refereeing the meeting and all that.
So why is there a fight then?
No, the issue here strictly is that AU has constituted a technical committee.
Yes.
Called the Technical Committee for the African Games.
Yes.
And the two bodies are saying that they were, if you look at the political agreement, they will have to send in reps, but they don't have reps on it.
Yes.
AU said they invited them, they didn't show up. They didn't bring their, so the issue is how to get these technical resolved. Who is to go on this technical committee? Who is to head and all that?
Because the technical committee is working directly with Accra 2023.
The technical committee works with the LOC and ROCs. Because if, for instance, we are going to, we're coming in for, say, football, obviously CAF has a big say.
Very important.
Yes, if we're going, sorry, if you're coming in for athletics, obviously the technical people, they will have to bring officials, you know, to make sure that the if you set a record,
of course, they provide officials.
They provide the officials.
And ratification of records.
For instance, even boxing. Boxing, we don't have any official.
It is clear infrastructural challenges are not the only issues impeding the successful organization of the Games. And stakeholders have just 12 months to be ready. Maybe 12 months may seem like a long time for many, but for many athletes around the globe, it looks like a daunting task. But until then, all we can do is hope. From the Boteman Sports Complex, I'm Tahir Fentio for Joy Sports.
Welcome back on the AM show. So quite a turbulent year it was 2022 in terms of recording the depreciation of the Ghana cedi. It took off at some point getting to the tail end of the year, but we looked at inflationary rates, 50.3% and counting, among others. We're yet to get the figure for December, among others. It was a turbulent economic year. The question is, as we interact with our stakeholders this morning, we'd like to find out what they would like to see in 2023 in terms of the focus or the focal areas, what they would want government to do in this year. And also in there, I would like my guests at some point to touch on the special prosecutor and what he says about the fight against corruption and how we're going nowhere because, as my guest this morning for the News Review said, the structures are simply not in place. Well, joining us for now to have this conversation, we have Dr. Joseph Obeng. He is president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, as we call them, and Samson Asaki Awengobet, executive secretary, Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. We also have Professor Lord Mensah, who is a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, and Charles Appiah Kubi, Executive Secretary, Ashanti Business Owners Association. For now, I'd like to say a very good morning to Dr. Obeng and Samson Asaki Awengobet. A very good morning to you, gentlemen. I hear all of you are on. Initially, I heard some of you were not on. A very good morning to you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you, and good morning to Happy New Year to your channel's viewers.
Great.
Yeah,
let's start with your reflections on the year 2022. I'll start with you, Dr. Obeng. We saw the industrial action. We saw Kumasi in the Ashanti region. We saw Accra. We saw different dynamics come to play. What, in summary, was 2022 like for you as GUTA?
Yeah, thank you very much. As we all know, 2022 did not help us. It's the year that saw a high rate of inflation, high interest rates, and recorded the record depreciation of the cedi. These are all the pillars upon which businesses thrive, and that all these pillars were broken. That made doing business here very, very difficult. That also saw to the depletion of our capitals in the region of about 60%. And so the year under review had not been friendly to businesses. And that's the reason why we also pushed on government to do a little more to save the situation by protesting. And the latter part saw some gains that the city was being stabilized, for which we expect that it should be sustained. And so that has been the year in retrospect. And so going forward, I think the government main aim now is to industrialize, to ensure self-sufficiency, to stabilize the city and shore up the forest through industrialization, and hence the complete reversal of the benchmark discount policy, as well as shortlisting some major commodities that we think that we have comparative advantage to produce here by restricting those products from getting the forest to engage in importation. And so this is the main goal of government now. What we were seeking that government should have looked into the areas that we have the capacity to produce and itemize those items and give the needed protection and leave the majority of the areas that we do not have capacity. If you look at our importation, the requirement, our import requirement, we can only outsource about 15%, maximum 20% from local sources. And that if we should remove the benchmark policy, it means that the majority of products that we procure into this country is going to be a very high. That is going to that's not going to help the consuming public. And so this is what we're expecting. And that when government is also going to this direction, we are expecting that it makes funds available, because at the present interest rate of about 40%, it is not conducive for industrialization unless government itself have earmarked some funds to deliberately help these areas that they seek to support. VAT has also been increased. And when you look at the VAT, it's also going to bring some discomfort to businesses. You'll recall that our members in Kumasi embarked on demonstration against the invigilation of the tax officers on the VAT because of simply non-compliance. Because the structure itself is very complex and it does not ensure compliance. And that we are thinking that government should have looked into reforming the structure itself so that it will ensure compliance rather than increasing the rate. And so, because we have also we have said that in the market we have about 3 systems running concurrently. Those who are charging the standard rate, who now will be paying about 21%, who will be charging about 21%, and then we have those who charge the flat rate of about 4%, and those who do not charge the VAT at all operating under the same environment.
Right.
And so it does not ensure fairness. There's no parity in here, and that we're thinking that these areas will be looked at. What is very important for us now, even when government is looking at industrialization to shore up the forest and also stabilize the currency, we are also thinking that government should be able to sustain the gains and make sure that the city is strengthened.
Right.
By so doing, the government have to look at the structural problems that we face as a country. And that if you do not look at those structural problems, we are not going anywhere, because you realize that the demand of the forest far outweighs the supply. And we have to look at where the drain is. We have talked about the fact that there's excessive repatriation of our limited resources outside because of the foreign dominance of our economy. And that's, we think that there should be a retention policy. And this retention policy can only be done by investment laws, so that we can at least retain some of this repatriation and then shore up our limited forest.
Okay.
Yeah, we are also saying that most of the foreign, the black market situation in the country has also not helped us, and that we think that government efforts should be driven regularizing the forest bureau system, where government or Bank of Ghana will regulate the activities of the forest bureau, streamline it to the purposes for which it was established.
Right.
And do away with the black market system if we are able to sustain the stability of our currency.
Okay.
And in this case, we are expecting that Bank of Ghana should give the rate at which this forex bureaus should operate, and the bank rate that the Bank of Ghana uses is the rate that should be communicated to the forex bureaus. As it were now, there is a cartel, a cartel in the black market who determines the rate every morning. Because each morning when we go to the market, they will say that the rate has not come. And then when it's about 10 o'clock, the rate comes. And then it is not the one from the Bank of Ghana. So who determines this rate? So in order to make sure that we are able to stabilize the currency, we have to look strictly at the operations of the black market, streamline the activities of the forex bureaus, and come under directly supervision of the Bank of Ghana, so that we can.
Point made there, Dr. Obeng. Interesting points you've made so far. And since you started off on that trajectory, I would throw it to our other guests as well. But let me start with Professor Lord Mensah. You've heard what Dr. Obeng has said. We all want the cedi to be stable. But the latest information we're getting, we know that the cedi ended 2022 as the second worst or second weakest currency in Africa and the fourth worst globally. And that's according to Bloomberg. We know that for a while it was the worst currency globally. So looking at what data is revealed, it suffered, the Ghana cedi suffered a loss, year-to-date loss of 38.86% to the US dollar. Then globally, the local currency placed 145th. Sierra Leone's leone came 146th, or placed 146th. The Argentinian peso was 147th, and the Sri Lankan rupee was 148th, respectively. That's the order. So it was the fourth worst in the world. You look at the question that Dr. Obeng poses about who determines the rate of the Ghana cedi. And the central bank has clamped down on some forex bureau and others, but others have also spoken about the practicality of it. At some point, you would see the Bank of Ghana rate at 8 point something. There was a transaction I had to make a few days ago. At least I'm not few that was sent to your brother. And the bank's rate was very low, 7 point something, when in fact, out there, it's far more. So what is your take on this, even as you reflect on 2022 as a year, Professor Mensah?
Yeah, very well. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. You know, when it comes to exchange rate, clearly, I always indicate, the drivers, and I split the drivers to three. The first one is a speculative drive, which normally is dictated by the black market. And then also we have the seasonal drive, but then we have the structural drive, which has to do with the structure of our economy, which every now and then we tend to have more demand for dollars compared to, the supply of the dollar. And so year in, year out, you will see that the dollar keeps on, increasing against the local currency. And every year we seem to penetrate a discrete number, which I've made this point, clear. Getting to the latter part of the year, we saw some stability. And that stability, I will attribute it to, the speculative drive that tends to be, toning down. And I believe if we should go in the same trajectory, from this year on, we should be able to, get to a point where, our cedi will be stable all year through. But I can tell you that with the control of the deviation of the Bank of Ghana's rate to that of the black market, it is difficult. It will be difficult to control unless the black market does not exist. And I always ask myself, who are those black markets? Can we really integrate them into, the mainstream forex, transactions? I can tell you that it is going to be difficult. But then we also look at how the black market is created and how monies sip down to the black market. I identify the Bank of Ghana through the banks and then the forex bureaus as white markets. And then we have the black market. If monies are coming from outside or dollars are coming from anywhere, the first spot to find itself is the white market. All the transactions we do through our export, through our international settlement, remittances and all those, comes through the white market, which Bank of Ghana dominates. But we must ask ourselves the question, how does the dollar get to the black market? Who created that black market? We may have to look at, how we can limit the transactions and then possibly reduce the activities of this black market by ensuring that the dollar does not sip to them. Somebody will say if the dollar does not sip to them, there will be scarcity created at that level. If the dollar is not available and Bank of Ghana gives its rate at the white market, obviously whoever is buying, whoever is selling will stick to the Bank of Ghana's price of the dollar. So for me, we may have to look at how we can block the channels through which the dollar sips to the black market. We should look into the regulatory level, look at the bank level, how the dollar gets to the black market, and then also possibly look at the dollar activities. Dollar in our environment is not a medium of transaction. It is for holding it for a purpose of maybe using it for using it for import or transactions that are foreign based. So if you are doing a local transaction or you are buying it to hold as a store of asset, it shouldn't be given to you. So the purpose and identification of the usage of dollar is very, very important. And then also we should look at the structure of the economy, which for me, that is not going to be, the immediate term. We should look at it from, long-term perspective. Government should be able to align, its fiscal policies with the monetary policy by ensuring that whatever government spends goes into areas that are more sensitive to the economy. Let's take, for instance, food inflation. Food inflation was driving our inflation because dollars that are required to import them was getting expensive. So effectively, now that fuel prices are coming down at the global market, now that we can see, as a result of that, we can see some stability in the city. Now that we have all these economic, advantage, we should ensure that going forward in the year, whatever we are spending goes into agriculture. So, for instance, when you talk about food, what kind of food that we can easily grow in our environment? Within 6 months, we should have them on our market. These are areas I would prefer government channeling what our funds do, so that we ensure that even if global price of fuel is going up, we have certain, levels of inflation that we can control in our environment. Because if you look at last year's inflation, all the disaggregated items were going up, and that is why we were able to hit the 50, 0.3. And if I can tell you that if you have your, fuel price going up, and then you're able to control the local inflation, which is controlling by having more food available, it should be able to, on average, control inflation in our environment. So for me, I want the government to align whatever readings the Statistical Service brought out from last year, and then see how we can allocate our funds, our expenditure in a direction where it can curb some of this, inflation.
Interesting points you've made there. Maybe in just a minute, can you just add your reflections on 2022 so I move to the other guests? Because I threw that question at you, it sort of took away from that.
Yeah, so you mean 2023 or 2022?
2022.
Right, 2022, it was a turbulent year for the country. It was a year that I think most of the things happening in the economy, some of us young ones, we've never experienced them. If you reflect back, inflation of about 45% and above, I look back and I saw it somewhere around 1992 thereabout, 1990s, and then latter part of 89. And for inflation to go above all the short-term or all the possible interest rate structures, it is an economy that was in, serious trouble. And it's a year that, investors lost confidence in the economy. They had to move their money out. It's a year that, even if you have your salary, what you can purchase has been reduced by almost 50%, because if you talk about inflation of 50%, that is the implication. So effectively, it wasn't a pleasant year at all. And businesses were, showing signals reflecting what is on the ground. Importers gave up. And if you go to the Temahabo, they will tell you that importation volumes has reduced completely. And so, these were all signals that tells you that the economy was, in a serious trouble. And I wasn't surprised that we headed to the IMF. And heading to the IMF with the conditions that came with it by having a debt restructuring, which government couldn't, engage, and Labour giving the signal that they will go all out. But going forward, I think we put up, some structures. And maybe you ask questions on that. So let me leave that one. And then when it comes to that, I can speak to it.
Let me come to Charles Apiakubi, Executive Secretary, Ashanti Business Owners Association. I had interactions with you last year, and you were a bit distraught about the rise of the dollar against the local currency. I think it got to over 50%. The value eroded about 54% at a point last year. And then we clawed back some of that, closing the year at around 38%, as Bloomberg reports. But for you, what is your succinct, brief reflection on 2022? What did it mean for you, the business community?
Thank you and good morning to your viewers and Happy New Year. 2022 was a very devastating year for businesses. We saw a lot of challenges that collapsed a lot of businesses as well. It was a year we saw inflation going as high as 50.30%, consumer price index ranging about 144 basis points as at 2022, October, and inflation rate month on month was about 2.7%. Consumer price index on transportation was also high as 154.12%. Policy rate, which is the basis for lending to businesses, also went up as 27%.
We appear to be having a bit of a challenge with the connection to Charles Apiakubi. Charles, I think you're back now. Please go ahead.
Okay. You are
Charles Apiakubi is the Executive Secretary, Ashanti Business Owners Association. I guess some calls are interrupting his flow, but you can go ahead now, Charles.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for that interruptions. We saw policy rate going as high as 27%. Producer price inflation rate was about 71.4%. This had some tendencies of collapsing businesses. We saw a lot of capital and coupled with taxations that were also killing businesses. We're looking at government coming with interventions that probably can salvage the business environment, but we could not see that. We were left in limbos and businesses have collapsed. We are here again, 2023, very hopeful, probably things will work, but that will mean government re-engaging businesses to understand the plight businesses are going through and enact policies or laws that can probably address that. Over the periods, we have trumpeted that the business community is the engine of growth for this country. An engine that is not lubricated, an engine that is not reserviced, obviously will break down. When it breaks down, the owner of the car can never use that vehicle again, and that will bring some economic devastating hardship to bearers of those owners of the cars. And that is the situation we have in Ghana, where government policies always have been inward-looking without averting to the challenges businesses are going through. We are hoping that 2023, probably, government will avert its mind to the challenges business went through from 2020, during COVID-19, 2021, the post-COVID challenges, and the untold hardship economic challenges brought to businesses, and see how best he can salvage the business community. For 2022, we survived, but it was just by the grace of God.
Thanks for those quick reflections. I see a message coming through from Yunus Osman, who says, Ghanaians talk too much, no action. You guys should give us a break, watching you from Germany. Interesting comments there. But yes, the talk must come in for action to follow. But that brings me to Samson Asaki Awengobet of the Importers and Exporters Association. Do you think we're talking too much and acting too little, even as you reflect quickly on 2022, before we start talking about what your expectations are for 2023?
Well, thank you very much. Let me say a very happy new year to my colleagues, especially to Dr. Joseph Ben and our friend in Kumasi and Professor Lord Mercer. I'm sure 2022 has been one of the difficult years. We from the Traders Association has been very vocal on our issues fast forward. I must say, I don't know whether if the person who texted or tweeted from Germany are saying that we from the business community are talking too much, or as a people of Ghana are talking too much, or government is talking too much. I probably want to believe that he is pushing the too much talking to government, which is talking too much rather than taking action. Or
I think you have a point. I think you have a point there. I agree with you.
Yes. So it is the government that always comes and promises us. I remember one of the meeting, and I'm happy that Dr. Ben is here. The finance minister sat before us and told us he's taking Benjamin values 30% from us, and he was going to an ad hoc committee from government side and our side, that's the business community side, and he was going to find a mitigating factor for us. Since that March or that April meeting that announcement was made, till date, 2023, January 2nd, we have not had any meeting anywhere in the finance ministries to discuss whether the committee was formed, who were those committees, what was discussed, because we were told that they were going to do this in step by step, 3 segments, but nothing. So you see, the government that will come, and then of course when Kumasi and Aguta also strike down their demonstration, they sat down in our market. Then you have a deputy minister who came on air, and I'm sure he was even on your air, PM Express or one of your platform, and said, oh, Dr. Ben has tapped them from their back because they have agreed nicely that the government was going to give us a flat rate at the port. And so what they did, it is not good for, they have not shown any good faith. Just talk, lose talk, and go away without nobody calling him to order. So as he said about the flat rate, the whole Ghana was happy that, oh, but government is giving people flat rate at the port. Up to now, as we speak, there's nothing happening. So you see, you have a government that will come in 2016, with a very nice package, tell the whole Ghana that, look, we are going to move you from taxation to production. And as we speak, we will be business friendly. And I can tell you, Kumasi, and I'm happy the executive secretary from Traders in Kumasi is here. And I'm happy that Dr. Ben is here. Dr. Ben led a delegation to the president. And the president started in front of them and told, oh, my finance minister is outside New York. He's coming over the weekend. I will engage with him. And then there will be something positive coming. Little do we know that they retired from that engagement to 3 days retreat. The president came back and said, oh, even if you look at our taxation, Ghana is the lowest so far as West Africa is concerned. And that we should be expecting more taxes to be rolled by the GRA. Then we're skeptical. We're watching whether, but is it not at the rate of 19.1? Because if you had 12.5 VAT, 2.5 debt fund, 2.5 health insurance, then 1% special levy, its amount of total VAT was amount around to over 90 point something. The claim that business community had to claim was only the 12.5 input tax. There's a difference, there's a cost element. So businesses were struggling and were saying that the rate that you move, where you move, everybody, many of the business people from the ordinary 3% flat rate without even discussing with us. Because when they were going to bring the 3% flat rate, they had engagement with Gutta. But this one, when they were taking it away, there was not any consultation. They moved everyone to 90.2. Then they asked GRM staff to go all over the country. That hesitated or that brought the shutdown of Ashanti region. Then they sat down in Kumasi. We met the president. The president gave promises. In 2023 budget that was presented somewhere in November, we did not see anything. We rather saw additional increase. So I want to ask whether if Gutta, led by Dr. Joseph Aben, went to Flagstaff House and Jubilee House and told the president, we want you to increase more of the tax, or they went there to tell him that, look, the tax component is killing, and everyone was stagnant. And I believe in my mind that that was exactly what Dr. Ben said. He told them that the VAT was killing. In fact, and they were saying that they should bring people back, it shouldn't be compulsory. But what do we see? Government say, oh, we hear something good, then we wake up in the morning, then in the afternoon, the government is doing different things. Increasing another VAT, 2.5, making it 15%, then that is going to be a huge cost on us. You ask yourself, is it going to be input 20%, so that government will get the difference, 2.5 as government revenue, so that if it's 20% at the port, then I'm going to sell at 20%, then I'll take my 20% input tax from the port. Then the difference with the 2.5 will be government revenue, then we will not have any problem. But I'm not quite sure. I am not quite sure whether government will want us to have input 20%, output 20%, so the government will get the difference that he's bringing the 2.5, and that will be revenue for government, only 2.5, so that at least I claim my 20% that I paid at the port. That is not what government is pushing. So you can imagine that we have a government that will tell you A in the morning and do B in the evening, and nobody can hold them together. You go on strike, you go to the president himself, he will sit and he will look at your face and ask you your demonstration that you did, your closest of shops. What have you gained when those who are making the money are all open? You can imagine. So you can see that clearly there's a lack of leadership at the top there. Because
this assertion you make, this assertion you make about you go and meet the president and he looks you in the face and says, so the strike you embarked on, what did you gain from it? And others are open and they're making money. Is this a meeting you were in personally, or are you just re-echoing what someone told you?
I am re-echoing, I'm in business circles, so whatever goes and comes, I get the information.
I just want a clarity on that you were not at a meeting when this happened. Someone told you this.
Absolutely. I was. All right,
so this is conjecture.
Even if I was not at the meeting, the reason that took us to the Jubilee House, the reason that the president called them in the night, within 1 hour space, that I want to see people. When they went, the promise that the president gave, that is not what is reflecting in the 2023 budget. The budget is completely, did not have any regard to the submission that was made by traders union to the president. And I'm happy that the Kumasi man is there, Dr. Joseph Obe, my senior comrade, is there. If any of the plea that was sent to the president, if was actually captured, they will say, my friend from Kumasi wasn't there, but I know doctor led the team to the place. Right. And that was the exact words by His Excellency the President. So I can tell you, 2022 was one of the challenging years. I remember somewhere 22nd, thereabout, I went to Fishing Harbor. You could see clearly that the Fishing Harbor was like a ghost, like a cemetery. Total silence. So I asked, what is the problem? The problem was purchasing power. So if anybody suffered in 2022 review, I will tell you, it's the business community. You remember somewhere March 21st March 2022, the governor of Bank of Ghana had a meeting and called you, the media, and asked the commercial banks that our prime rate was 14.5. We upped it to 17% prime rate. Banks, increase your interest rate. And I said, no. When the prime rate was at 14.5, we from business sector community was calling that Bank of Ghana, please then talk to commercial banks to also reduce their interest rate to be in consonance with what your prime rate are. Bank of Ghana, or the governor of Ghana, or the governor of Bank of Ghana, was silent. He never made any statement at the time we were calling that if prime rate is low, interest rate should not be at where it is. Maybe it moved to 17, he said this. So we ask ourselves, was it benefiting the struggle of business community or what? Then from there, you move it again from 17 to 22, then from 22 to 27 plus. That's where prime rate went last year. Then interest rate, of course. Then you should be talking about borrowing between 30%, 40%. What can you do with it? How will you be able to pay? We also had a point. Africa is just close to us. Africa has also, when MPS came in 2018, or 2018 there, or 2019 there about in operations, we thought, oh, we are the biggest port so far as West Africa is concerned. We can receive the biggest vessels. However, our counterpart in Africa had moved, put up the same bigger terminal or port that can also receive the biggest vessel. And the cost of doing business in Africa is far, far lower, making us losing majority of our transit cargo to Africa and Lomé. Coupled with our taxes in our port, the financial service levy, the COVID-19 levy, and other levies had made our port very expensive, saying that even the Ghanaian imports had dropped. That is why during December, we were not seeing traffic on the Tema Motorway, nor the Nungwa Tema Beach route. And we were quite clear that look, not that people cannot import, the cost of doing business. Then remember our port rate, what the customs are using for the dollar indexing. Custom move, we sleep, we wake up in the morning. The custom move from 7.2 to 9.5. The difference was about 1 cedi, 20% or so. Then we ask ourselves, so many years of advocacy at the port, I have never seen the indexes of custom move beyond 50%. If it will be increased 10%. Remember, so from 9.5, then they move to 9.6. Then the following week, they move it to 10.5.
Right.
Then to 10.
Right.
So this also increased our taxes.
So it is clear, Samson, that 2022 was not a good year for you, especially as importers and exporters. And later on, I'll be coming to you in terms of import substitution and what we can look at in that respect. But let me bring in Dr. Joseph Obeng. I want you to look at a few things. Maybe you can premise what you're going to say with whether you corroborate what Samson had been saying about meetings with the president and all of that. You were in some of those meetings. But let me find out from you. We're approaching an IMF deal. We're hoping that we get the deal. Some economists have said if we don't get the deal, it could spell doom for us, economic doom. And the finance minister has basically said, it would do same. There's the debt exchange program, which some have said still has a lot of work to be done on. You consider the fact, for example, that initially individual bondholders were not to be involved, but pensions were going to be affected, over 2 billion Ghana cedis. Now, on the back of the TUC's threat of an industrial action, the pensions have been taken off and individual bondholders have been brought on board. Then again, we can talk about import substitution. And I'm throwing these questions out so that, gentlemen, all of us can reflect on them. Tomatoes, for example. In 2020, 2021, we got some seedlings from Burkina Faso so we could, because their variety is more juicy and all of that, we got them into the country. What has become of that? When you look at the numbers, it appears we've not made any gains, in fact, from those. You can talk about the one district, one factory. I always say three things. How many jobs have been created? How much of our imports have been cut down on the back of those factories? And how much are we saving as a country? These are questions I'd like us to reflect on. What would you like to see in these areas in 2023? Dr. Obeng.
Yeah, thank you very much. IMF will come, they will make some injections into the economy, but if we do not look at the structural problems that is militating against the economy, then it will come and we will not have any effect. The same thing will replay. That the sharks, the hawks, and the pythons in the economy will swallow whatever injection that the government will do. That's why we have always been saying that we have to revisit our investment laws to make sure that the repatriations that some of these multinationals do, that the areas that we have capital flights, the cross-border trading, trade of money, and all these things should be looked at. How we'll be able to retain some of the forests that we have for ourselves as a country. What laws are we making that a foreign country, foreign direct investment that have been successful here do not take all the gains, but make sure that at least 30% is retained for redevelopment of the country. If we do not do this, then we are going to have a perennial problem that will not help. So our problem is very structural. And even before we assess the loans from IMF, we should be able to address these problems first. If you do not do that, then we are not serious at the way to go. And so that is very important. When it comes to the local enhancement of local productivity, you see, the ban have been capital acquisition. And now we are saying that we should go into rice production and that we should grow this rice locally. And who can go and source a capital for 40%, a lending rate of over 40%, and use it to go and grow rice and compete with the rest of the world? It's never practicable. So that's how government should come in and fund a deliberate effort to inject some funds and to subsidize these areas. If that is done, I believe, and then we have to also evaluate and see where we have the comparative advantage, where we have the resources to do. Sometimes we do not even have to think about the bigger manufacturing entities who may not have the competitive edge globally. But we have to look at our industrial base, where we used to have the coconut oil, the granite oil, the garis, and all that, how we get simple tools to enhance on their productivity, to add value, and also pack it well.
Right.
That's how the bigger economies like China and all that, they did not start it very big. Those, the little ones that we ignore, are the basis. Those are our industrial base. And those are the areas that we even do not recognize that they are part or integral part of our industries. And so if you have to redesign our industrialization policy to adopt all this, you recognize that the made in Kumasi sandals and all that is dying gradually because it is not being captured as a mainstream manufacturing entity. And they are being made to pay high rates for leather that they import. So, but if it had been a bigger factory or manufacturing entity, then they will lobby government and they'll give them the subsidies to do that. The textile industry, our dressmakers and all that, they also need that textiles be looked at, and that they can also outsource these products at cheaper price so that they can sell their output at a competitive pricing.
Right.
But we look at the bigger picture, and that's where we are failing. Now, let me come to what Mr. Asaki was talking about.
Okay, so because of the time we have left, briefly on that, so I can move on to the others as well.
But it may not be fair if we do not clear some of these things, because the president did respect our meeting with him, And then he agreed on us on several points that we have made. We submitted 15-point solutions. And out of the 15, the only only one, and that the president himself said that I agree with all of these, and that we are going to submit to EMT, Economic Management Team, to factor into our policy. And the except one that the president referenced it and said that he cannot agree with this. He's saying that the president said that why did we close? He did not say that. We have argued that they said that we do excessive importation, and we are saying that the government can use investment laws to contain some of this excessive importation, because the locals' share of this importation is only about less than 20%. And that the China malls and all that should not dump the goods here. And so we were telling the government to use investment laws to contain this excess influx of goods which is being dumped into the economy. And then the president sympathized with this and said that much as you are at the receiving end, you are also again closing your shop to also aggravate your plight. And that's what the president said, and he did not say anything negative.
Right.
So I beg him, because let me tell you, after our meeting with the president, then the president followed it up and then met with about 5 other stakeholder groupings. And that's where, after they have solicited our views and our solutions and all that, the president came to address the nation and articulated his policy direction. Bank of Ghana also started clamping on the
So I think Dr. Obeng, the point is made, which is why I also probed further with Samson Asaki Awingo bit, because some of these claims, when they are made, that's why I pinned him on whether he had been at this meeting, and he admitted he had not. So thanks for that clarity. You were there. Let me come to Professor Mensah on this beat. So same set of questions, but interesting that Dr. Obeng talks about the competitive advantage that we are not taking, advantage of, so to speak. What are our niche areas as a country, and how can we better them in 2023? And importantly, I recall 2021 to 2022, a lot of people tend to forget. I shared it in my blunt thoughts. Ghana was the biggest exporter of yam. And I'm asking myself, I pose those questions. I'm sure everybody has forgotten. The Agric Ministry, for example, if we're exporting so much yam, are we looking at better varieties of yam? Are we looking at varieties that can yield more in terms of the different things it can be used for, in terms of the output? What are we doing to maintain our position, for example? These are things you don't see any reflections on. Do we even have policy on this? Professor Mensah.
Thank you very much. When it talks about variety, I may not be able to, discuss so much into it, but I'm not a great expert to talk about variety.
No, these were just my thoughts I was putting out there in terms of what probably we could be doing. Hello, Prof. Let's see whether we can get Professor Lord Mensah to work out that connection. On a day like this, well, a lot of people holidaying, so sometimes there are connectivity issues. Professor Lord Mensah, of course, is with the University of Ghana Business School. Prof, can you hear me now? It appears he still can't. I'll get back to Prof on that question when he's ready. Charles, back to you. So debt exchange, IMF, import substitution, comparative advantage. What do you think of this? How can we... Okay, so Charles, just hold for me. I'm told Prof is in. Let me just do this. Prof, back to you.
Yes. So, like I was saying, it could be that for that particular year, we had very good favorable, weather condition for yam growth. And that is why possibly we recorded, that kind of, massive yam growth. It may not be as a result of any policy that we place in place. If it's policy, then consistently we should see an increase. I mean, as a result of what the policy is doing.
But
let
quick
me tell
one,
you that-
quick intervention. Even if it's not policy, and you benefit from what, some bounty harvest and all of that, shouldn't it become policy so that you retain your position, so that you can maintain the status quo?
That is why I mentioned that maybe it's nature that is dictating that. You can't use nature for a policy. Nature can change its course at any point in time. So if nature favors you to have more plantain on the market as a result of the heavy rains that we witnessed this year, if nature favors you to have more yam on the market, it does not necessarily mean that your policy is yielding. And that is why I'm saying that it could be as a result of, the weather conditions or the whatever weather it is supporting, yam growth during that particular year. But then also, let me tell you one thing. You see, this particular year, we're looking at, the impact of policies on our economy. And the impact of this on our economy to ensure that we break down inflation, to ensure that we control exchange rate, and to ensure that at least there is more, export, and possibly we minimize import to some goods or some product that we can grow in our environment. How do we do this? I can tell you that the same management structure that we had that sent inflation to skyrocketed values like 50.3%, and then also exchange rate to about 15 and all those, causing more speculations and the trust that we've lost in the system, the same management cannot bring us out. I believe that in as much as we are looking for an IMF program to come and help us shaping the economy, IMF program may not necessarily be just the capital injection alone. They come in and there are some soft benefit, which has to do with the restrictions on government. Even though I've had my problems with some of these restrictions, that could be, I see it to be too much open. I'll come to the details of that. But I'm telling you that, the same structures we had that sent us to that kind of economic quagmire in 2022, we cannot maintain the same management structures. We need to revisit the table and see who is not performing. We cannot have an agric minister for 2 terms, for which, food inflation has been leading all the inflation disaggregation over the few months that we had this inflation skyrocketing. Because we had planting for food and jobs, we had budget allocated for it, and consistently, if you do the text mining exercise of our budget policies over the past, 6 years, you realize that planting for food and jobs keeps on, repeating itself every now and then. That shows that it's a policy that the country had interest in it. But is this policy making an impact? We're not seeing that. Let me also look at this. We're going to IMF. IMF may come in with restrictions. Don't spend, cut down your budget, deficit to about 5%. Cutting down budget deficit means that you are going to reduce your expenditure, possibly find a way to increase your revenue. If you are not able to increase your revenue, we should be able to look at how we can cut down expenditure. Cut down expenditure and then spend in areas that can have direct impact on the economy. That is why I'm saying that
we seem to have lost Prof one more time. We'll bring him in. Charles Appiah-Kubi is Executive Secretary, Ashanti Business Owners Association. What is your take on all this?
Well, anything about national development has got to do with a conscious decision of government and decoupled with partisan politics, and ensuring that what must be done to help Ghana become the beacon of hope in Africa is done to the best of the country and that of businesses. The relation between government and business are inextricably linked. So it's always important government engage businesses with policies that obviously have tendencies of affecting the business environment. But over the period, you find out that there's this knee-jerk reaction policies that do not sync with the dynamics within the business environment. So government policies have always been like counterproductive to the kind of businesses we run in this country. One of them that we have obviously been talking about is the VAT. VAT, we have told government on different platforms that this is a killer to businesses. It's devastating a lot of businesses. So can we look at the administration?
Prof, we can hear you. Just hold. I'll come back to you shortly. Charles Appiah is making a point. Go ahead, Charles.
Yes. We have told government, can we look at the administration of this VAT? Can we look at the structure of this VAT? So probably it can sync with the dynamics within the business environment, that there will be self-compliance. And over the period that I have been part of this kind of engagement, over 4 years now, that has never been done. But year on year, we see government increasing the same thing that we said it is devastating businesses. We told them, especially within the FMCG space, because of the kind of distribution channel that we run, VAT has a cascading effect, therefore making cost of items much more expensive. And two, because the market is not so much structured, there are a lot of people who have not been registered as VAT agents. So they are advantaged, and those who have been registered are disadvantaged. For a period, those who have been registered are not also charging the VAT. And we are using our working capital to pay for VAT. That is wrong. It is depleting our working capital. Government who are being short-changed in the market. Can we sit down so that you appreciate what happens within the FMC sector, so we can introduce much more resilient, much more supporting policies that will make us feel comfortable in complying, so that you can also rake in the kind of revenue you're looking for. Government has not done that. We have seen an increase in VAT standard rate again. So what happens is government will increase taxes, you will not get the taxes, will collapse businesses, and this country is dipping down and down and down.
In other words, government's policy direction is simply not working.
It's not working. It's not working. That's where we are now. You remember BOG came up with policy rates to arrest inflation. And I asked myself, are those policy rates able to arrest inflation? The answer is no. Then that means that there's a problem in the way we evaluate situations and assess policies and see how best we can support the business community. If we decide to increase policy rate to make borrowing expensive, and you cut out the businessman from the business, how do you get revenue?
Right.
You're not making the right investment in sectors that will support this economy. When businesses are well taken care of, this economy will be well off. We might not need to go to IMF.
And speaking of
investing benchmark values, and people are calling that is also wrong. At this time, businesses have been devastated with all these economic challenges. The little that we have, we are also increasing cost of clearing goods at the ports. That is wrong.
Okay.
When 2017, His Excellency Bawumia, the Vice President, made that brilliant assessment that we need to have a benchmark value so that we can increase traffic at the port, so we can get the trade facilitations, so that we can get revenue. What has happened?
Good question. What has happened since then? So interesting perspectives that you share. We're pressed for time. Let me just do this. Bring Prof back briefly to share his thoughts, and then I'll give a final slot to each one of you with just a brief thought on corruption, and then we can take it from there. Prof, just round up for us on the thoughts that you were sharing. Very briefly, sir. Professor Mensah? Okay, so let's do this. The very final bit I wanted us to look at, gentlemen, has to do with corruption. We're told that we bleed over $4 billion every year. I'm wondering whether we would have ended up at the doorstep of the IMF, if we had been able to stem the tide of corruption. Maybe not, you can't get rid of it completely, but if we had been able to put in place systems to deal with this menace. On the back of that, we also have heard from the special prosecutor who says he doesn't know whether we are actually as serious as we ought to be about fighting corruption. And I found that very telling for someone like that to make this point. What would be your concluding remarks on this very issue? I'll start with you, Dr. Obeng, unless we have Prof back. Is Professor Mensah back? Hello, Prof. Can you hear me?
Yes, I am. I'm back. Yes. So what I was saying is that we should change the structures. We should change the structures of our management. And if we
Right.
change the structures, it should be able to help us. Because otherwise, the benefit that we're supposed to reap from this debt exchange exercise, we may not reap that benefit. Because once we create that fiscal space, and government is spending into areas that are not effective or that are not making impact on the economy, we may not realize the benefit of that fiscal exercise. That's why I'm saying that we are calling for debt restructuring, all right, which it's part of the IMF conditionalities. But if we don't take care and we maintain the same management structures, we may not get the benefit of the IMF. We may not realize the benefit of this debt restructuring as, we're going on. Because it's a sacrifice Ghanaians are going to do. We are going to defer our investment returns.
We seem to have lost Prof one more time. Dr. Obeng, you heard my question about corruption. That's what I'd like us to end on. 30 seconds each. Just briefly, hit the nail on the head. Dr. Obeng.
Yeah, corruption has been the pain. It's a monster to our economy, and we need to check it. We overspend our limited revenue that we get. When revenue has been squeezed out from the business community and the generality of Ghanaian taxpayer, we overspend it because we do not ensure value for money expenditure. We overprice our expenditure through corruption, and that have to be looked at. If we're able to prone down on corruption, prone down on expenditure, then of course our limited resources can cater for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Obeng, for those concluding comments. Let me also take those from Charles. Charles, what would be your concluding comments in line with corruption and anything else you have to share?
Very well. Thank you once again. Of course, policies itself introduces corruption within the system. When you have overly increased VAT to that, obviously you give the room for the businessman to re-engage and discuss for a discount from a policy implementer.
Go ahead, Charles. Charles, if you can hear me, go ahead. It appears the connections, right when the crucial points are being made, but that is also testament to the sort of internet connectivity we have in this country. I think it's a conversation we should have, the quality of internet connectivity, if not calls interrupting. But Charles, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Very well. So policies obviously also have bearings on the kind of corruption we find ourselves in this country. So we want government to re-engage the business community in introducing policies. You see, when policies emanate from the people, compliance are so much high that it becomes difficult for anyone to breach the policies or the conditions around those policies.
Let me just do this. You speak about government reaching out to people like you, your groupings, to bring out policies, and that the buy-in would be great. If you had a way, and if government would adopt one policy from you, what policy would that be? Give us one.
It will be the VAT.
Okay.
The value-added policy. You see, we have talked about how it's breaking down a lot of businesses and how government is even being short-changed within the market. You see, the point is, if I am not charging is a consumption tax, if I am not passing on to the consumer, it also means I have to use my working capital to pay for it. How long can I sustain doing this? I will be tempted to renegotiate with someone to pay less. And the majority of said revenue goes personal pocket than get into the government kitty.
Okay.
Two, because I am not paying the right VAT, my books are also not right. So corporate income tax that government is supposed to realize for me, government will not receive it. When it comes to assessing the business performance, because I have not kept proper records of my business transactions, it becomes difficult for the bank to assess whether my business is doing well or not, and to describe what kind of capital investment they have to place in my business. So most of the time, you see banks giving loans to businesses and the businesses are collapsing because of some of these negating effects coming from a policy called VAT.
Right. Right. And so if you had your way, that's one thing you would tackle.
Exactly. Business want to pay taxes, but we want to pay taxes that are right, that resonate with the dynamics and the challenges within our markets. And that we are ready to support government to grow this country to achieve its economic development goals.
All right. Charles, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Let's wrap with Professor Mensah, who is back. Prof, you have just about a minute to share your final thoughts with us. The connection has not been fair to us today.
Sure. I hope you can hear me.
I can. Go ahead.
Yes, on corruption. You see, we live in a country where we have segregated corruption. But corruption is more or less like a suicide, bomber. Somebody who is corrupt is more or less like a suicide bomber. You see, you can be corrupt in your own, workplace. But then the impact that you are making with your corruption, the negative impact, is so huge that it's affecting the masses. If you were to carry bomb to go and kill them, you would have been better. It's as a result of corruption that we can see our economic situation in that way that we find ourselves in. And it's affecting all of us to the extent that the economy has gotten to our doorstep. For me, where I sit, for us to solve the problem, we shouldn't disaggregate corruption. To get to know corruption at the executive level, corruption at the ordinary level, and corruption even in our homes. Well, let's treat corruption as corruption. Whoever is corrupt is corrupt. Once we get you, we must punish you. Those countries that are doing what they have control over corruption, to some point, if you get corrupt, they slaughter you. So for me, I think we may have to represent, leave it for our judges and a lot of interpretations, and we speak around English around it. Trust me, we may not get a solution. I believe corruption is corruption. Let's not segregate it. A sin is a sin. There's no bigger sin, there's no smaller sin.
Interesting comments, Professor Lord Mensah, to wrap this conversation. We're grateful to all of those who joined Dr. Joseph Obeng. He is GUTA President. Samson Asake Awingobet. He is President, Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. You just heard Professor Lord Mensah, lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. We also had Charles Apiakubi, Executive Secretary, Ashanti Business Owners Association. Well, still to come, we have our Drive Safe segment. Today is a Monday. We'll also be playing that file. The minority in Parliament says it will file a criminal complaint to the police to look into the theft that has taken place at the site of the abandoned Saglemi project. The deputy ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee, Andrew Dari-Chiwite, is worried that most fittings from doors to electrical items have all been stolen. Can you imagine that? Due to the lax security around the project. And he's been speaking, interacting with Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, my colleague, Kweku Asante.
The Honourable Member of Parliament for Sola Tuna Kalba. He's in his second term. And since I've been in the House, he's the only MP that I've known has specifically written to the Government Assurances Committee to take on a minister for failing to live up to a promise he made to the House. That had to do with some roads in the constituency. Today, we're having a conversation about the budget, his sector, the Works and Housing Committee, that he's the deputy ranking member on that committee, and a host of other national issues. You also know that NDC is just about electing their executives. These are views that we'll be seeking from the Honourable Member of Parliament. So, Honourable, thank you very much for having us today.
Thank you for being with me too.
Honourable, so this has been quite a short meeting, this meeting of Parliament, the budget meeting. I mean, what are your views on what we have seen so far in Parliament, government business and everything?
Let me say a very good afternoon to you, and especially to your viewers and the people of Sola Tuna Kalba constituency, because they are the ones I'm representing. And so whatever I say here will be something that should please them, something that should be of benefit to them. Like you said, it's been a very brief session. Basically, it's been a session that you can describe really as the budget session because we came in preparing ourselves to receive the budget. Unfortunately, the budget came with some harsh news that we are not all happy about. But as a Ghanaian, we have to work around to ensure that we have a budget to run the nation. We can't bring the nation to a halt because we all do know that if this budget is completely thrown away, then from January, workers in the country will not have their salaries paid. And that is not what we are looking for. We are a minority group that is very responsible, and so we don't intend to bring the country to a halt. But we are only ensuring that the right things are done. We are only ensuring that Ghanaians are not suppressed to the extent that they cannot breathe. We don't intend to see a budget that will let Ghanaians feel as if they are slaves in their own country. I still remember very well that when President Akufo-Addo led a number of demonstrations, the most recent one before he became the president. Yes, I remember one of his cousins said he worked like a bull, and so he expects the government to also play their role. And so because of that, we work as a parliament, we work as Ghanaians, we work to ensure that the country runs. It is now the duty of President Akufo-Addo and then Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to ensure that the country runs properly. So
Honorable, do you not believe that the minority are simply just being sometimes anachronistic, antagonistic, just for political expediency? Because Ghanaians expect that you hold the government's feet to the fire. But some of your opposition, you are opposing 2.5% tax. Government says that it is because of you that the levy is struggling. Your fight that you put up last year, people lost trust in government's ability to raise the revenue, and they lost that revenue. So why are you all up in arms against some of these key government revenue measures in the budget?
Oh, if government would blame the NDC for their woes, then I think Ghanaians should quickly get this government out and bring in the NDC. Because, as like I said, we are in opposition. We are a government in waiting. And so we need to ensure that policies that are brought to the nation are of benefit to the people of Ghana. The VAT 2.5 you just talked about, you've forgotten that Akufo-Addo fought hard against this VAT, and so he has no moral right.
But if he fought against it, you were the one bringing it in 1995.
Yes.
So if he fought against it then, and you thought that it was a good policy,
yes,
you should just say that, okay, well, you've learned your lesson, and you are bringing it, you are trying to improve it. So let's all join hands in hand.
Yes, and that is why we think that what he has come to meet, he should make use of it. He has no moral right to increase it, especially at this time that Ghanaians are struggling to feed themselves.
What do you say about the criticism that you are part of the reason why Ghana is here? And that last year, I remember John Kuma on the floor saying that if you pass the e-levy, we did not have to go to IMF. Eventually, Parliament passed the e-levy, but 3 months late. So they say that if you pass e-levy early in time for government to get a revenue, it was projected about 7 billion Ghana cedis, would have succeeded. You don't have to go to IMF to go and get $3 billion. So they put part of the blame on your caucus.
Why should they put part of the blame on our caucus when they failed to engage Ghanaians? It was their duty to engage Ghanaians. It was their duty to explain e-levy to the people. It was their duty to ensure that whatever policy they were bringing as a government, the people of Ghana would receive it wholeheartedly. And so they failed in the first place by bringing a policy that was not friendly to the people of Ghana. I don't think as a party or as a people in opposition, it is our duty to bring policies that will favor Ghanaians. They brought policies. Look, as we are members of parliament, we are also Ghanaians as well. And so we have constituents that we represent. And so if they are bringing a policy that we think that, or we have realized that our constituents do not buy into it, I don't think we should just keep quiet and allow it to go and just for people to say that we are supporting government. No. Our duty is to ensure that whatever policies that the government is bringing are policies that will be in favor of the people, because we are a government in waiting, and so we should not allow policies that will run down the country. We should not allow policies that will destroy the people of Ghana. And so that is why we stood on our feet. Look, I don't think we should be a problem, because we advise them. I am not an expert, but I remember Honorable Atufo spoke vehemently. He gave them options. He gave them advice. Our leader, Honorable Haruna Idrusu, he spoke extensively and he gave them options, but they failed to take the options. Look, countries started implementing this e-levy something, and it failed. It didn't help. And so we were advising that, look, before you come in with a policy, you should have understood. Yes, you should have. Yes, but they failed to do that. And so the way they came with the e-levy was the reason why the e-levy failed. And so I don't think we should be blamed for that. No. So I don't think at all.
There are other sticking points in the budget. For instance, government is seeking to allocate some 80 million Ghana cedis for the construction of the National Cathedral. As I said, you're against it. You've been on a relentless campaign against governments taking money. The minister says he took it out of the contingency vote to build the cathedral. Your leader is at pains to explain that your side is not against construction of the National Cathedral. I don't know your Christian persuasion for it. I don't know whether you're Christian or not. But how can you say you're not against the construction of the National Cathedral, but you are not in support of government allocating resources for the construction of what government says will be a huge national asset that will bring in tourist revenue?
I am a Catholic. I'm a Christian, a proud Catholic. I contribute to the development of my church. As we speak, my parish in Solatona Kalba, we are building a church house. And we are not asking the DC to bring in money. We are not asking government to give us money. We're doing that voluntarily. We are contributing towards it. You remember President Akufo-Addo said they were not going to use the taxpayers' money to build this. And you see, if as a president, you went on your knees, prayed to your God, and made a promise before your God that you were going to build him a house, you didn't say that if I become a president, I will tax my country people to build a church house. No, you said you were going to do that to please God because God has answered your prayers. And so we think that per his messages, he said they were not going to use government resources. They were not going to use our taxes to do that. And so that is why we think that we should not use the taxpayers' money, the taxpayers' sweat, to build a national cathedral. We are not against the building of the national cathedral. Like I said, I'm a Christian myself, and so if a cathedral is there, I can equally go there and worship.
But you want individuals to contribute, not state money.
Even, look, you see, the president, even in his promise, did not say that he was going to make individuals go. He said he was going to build a national cathedral.
The president can't build a national cathedral from his pocket.
Yes, but
we've spent over close to $400 million. Does the president have $400 million?
But it's not even at the foundation level yet. So the questions we ask continuously is, where is even the money? $400 million. But go and see. I've not gone to the site, but I've seen it on TV. It doesn't tell you that the $400 million went into that project. And so we are Ghanaians first. We should not allow an individual to put all our resources somewhere. Like this contingency fund, for instance, they are picking up. You see, this year they have increased it. And so they think that that money should be there as a reserve for them. Anytime they need money, they go in and pick. Yes. As it stands now, they are not able to even account to Ghanaians how they got the 400 million, and then how they are not able to itemize where the monies went into. And so that's the difficulty we have. This is a government that is not prepared to be open to the people of Ghana. And so we don't see the reason why we should support this idea.
So, I mean, outside of the budget, this is 2 years into an evenly split parliament. Aside that independent MP that gives them the majority, you have the same numbers.
Yes.
I mean, there are those who have had cause to criticize the minority for saying that you haven't done enough for the numbers they gave you. I mean, from your perspectives, what are your own views on your performance as a caucus in terms of holding together the interest of Ghanaians and supporting what they want and kicking against the things they don't want?
I think so far so good. We don't have to blame our side for whatever that is happening. President Akufo-Addo happens to be that hard person, in quote. He's a person that thinks that whatever I want to do, I must do, whether it's lawful or unlawful. And so that is why we are struggling as a country. And so if people are not careful, they're going to push the blame to the minority. But we should not be the ones to be blamed. The fact is that we have always stood on our feet. Look, let me tell you, this e-levy, for instance, you just said it, that they are blaming it on us. But we ensure that they did the right thing. We ensured that we
was eventually passed. There are those who say that you were doing a walkout.
Yes.
You did not have to do a walkout.
Yes.
You had to stay in. You walked out. People say they don't understand the strategy.
You see,
there are people who are even accusing your side of taking money. To the extent that you are taking money to just do the bidding of government.
It's a pity that people have to think this way. We are people with integrity. We are people who are representing several thousands of people. And so I don't see why people should be thinking this way. No. We are not here just to make money for ourselves. Like I said, we are representing people, and so we should do things that will please the people that we represent. You see, we have 137, 137. Yeah. Yes.
People say they expect more from the minority.
Yes. That is the way people are thinking. But you see, it is not just, you know, we have percentages in Parliament. Yeah. You have been working here. You report for your JoyNews from Parliament. And so you should know the rules and whatever that goes on in Parliament. It's not just about saying that I have 137 and so because of that I'm winning. No. We have numbers that we use, especially when it comes to voting. And so sometimes, like I said, this budget, for instance, the way we passed it yesterday, people who do not understand, they are complaining that whether we fear they pass the budget. No, they have forgotten that the budget is going to be in stages. As we speak, estimates have not come. We will work on the estimates at the committee level.
But you see, it comes to estimates, for instance. You are set to go on break on the 21st of December.
Yeah.
Today is 7th. That means you have barely 2 weeks. Yeah. Estimates are not in. People are expecting Works and Housing Committee. How well can you do work on this when, for instance, next week is expecting the committee to bring the report and vote on it?
Yeah.
How well a good job can you do? People expect the minority to see that, well, if you're not bringing it up until this time, we are not approving it.
You know what? If you relate well with people who serve on the Western Housing Committee, they will tell you that Honorable Chibite is difficult. No, it's just that I'm a very principled person. I have already called I called the chief director.
I've heard that.
Yes, I called
it. Yes, difficult person.
I'm not a difficult person. I always want that the right things done. You just ask. Imagine that this evening, the clerk calls me to tell me that the estimates have been brought. Then I go to pick the estimate this evening. Then they advertise that tomorrow we come and sit on that estimate. So if I object to it, you describe me as a difficult person. I have to go and look through the documents and ensure that when we meet with the ministry, the right questions are asked for the right answers before the estimates are brought to the reports are brought to the plenary for debate. We don't just go and sit around and pass documents. No. And so I have already called the chief director for sanitation and water resources yesterday. I called the Western Housing Ministry to find out when they are bringing the estimates. And I told them, I am a deputy ranking member. I'm not the ranking member. I'm not the chairman of the committee. But I have a say in the committee, even if I were just an ordinary member, but I have a say in the committee. And so I already pre-informed them, if you don't come with your estimates early, then you come with the estimates late, you cannot rush on the committee to do a shoddy job. And so for me, at the committee level, I insist.
So you are promising that your committee is going to do a thorough work on the Works and Housing Committee's estimates and other agencies that come
Certainly. Not only my committee, but I trust that the other committees, they will do diligent jobs.
I mean, still in relation to your committee, one big issue that relates to the work you do at the Works and Housing Committee is Saglemi.
Yeah.
I mean, since 2017 that the NPP came into office, Saglemi has literally been abandoned.
Yeah.
And I was privileged to join you on a site tour just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And we saw what happened there. The budget was read. I've come through the budget statement. I haven't seen much for the Saglemi housing. It appears, despite your calls, government is insisting that, listen, we don't have the money to do it. And Saglemi is out there rotting.
It's not just that you didn't see much. You didn't see anything at all. When I was debating the day for yesterday, I raised the issue. If you listen or if you watch my debate, I described the budget to be useless because the budget was not complete. I was expecting to see something on the Saglemi housing project because the 2022 budget, there's a whole paragraph that talked about the Saglemi housing project, and even the minister indicating they were going to collaborate with the finance ministry to ensure that they got better options to complete the project. The project, as it stands now, we have about 1,506 housing units that are at various stages. And so I was expecting that this 2023 budget would have at least brought in certain something that would seal it. But you see, when I raised the issue, I was very clear that maybe because they have decided they will sell out the project, that is why they didn't capture it in their budget.
Government doesn't have money.
Yes, but if government doesn't have money, at least they should have a plan. We are not saying you should provide the money today, but you don't report on the project in 2022 budget, then 2023, you don't say anything at all. Then indicate in the budget that you have abandoned the plan of completing the project, and so you intend to sell it.
I mean, clearly, government does not think that the project is viable. This government, I think, from what they've said. You've heard from the minister who says that they want to give it out to private investors to complete. You met as a committee. Yes. I've seen that in the vote of proceedings. We don't know what your report will be yet. But from what you've gotten from the minister so far, do you sense government is willing to drop that idea of selling it to a private investor?
Well, I had a challenge with the minister at a committee level when he described the project as a failed project.
Were you not just being difficult?
I was not being difficult. Why should you describe that project as a failed project? You went to the site with us and you saw what happened. That was why that day at the project site, I was asking questions. I was asking those who happened to visit the project with us in 2017, 2018. Yeah. We saw the level of work there. We saw the quality of work that was done. But 2 weeks ago when we went there, you saw what happened. As if the government went to the project site with trucks, with boys, for them to pick out doors, louver blades, glasses,
but that's a strong
fittings.
Allegation to make.
You were there with us.
Yeah, but
look,
there are police men on the side.
1,506 housing units. You saw it. All the houses were touched. Not a single one was left out. How could that happen? If it was not an organized something. 1,100 solid houses. Every house was touched. Either the doors removed, or the windows removed, or the fittings removed, or the sink removed. Everything was touched there. How?
So this has set the project back so many years. Government will need a lot of money. Government doesn't have the money. So government
created this mess, and so government should be prepared to fix the mess.
But they said they are not prepared. They don't have the money. They want to sell it to a private. I mean, what do you have against a private developer buying up the entire property and then completing it and then selling it all?
You see, when Akufo-Addo came to power, 2017, his cousin, Honorable Atachian, a renowned lawyer, was the minister responsible for the Western Housing. Akufo-Addo himself, a lawyer, he had state attorneys. He has power. It took him how many years? This is about his 6th year or 7th year. And he's now concluding on selling the project. In 2017, some amount was paid to the contractor. It was Honorable Atachian who was the minister. He described the project as a very viable project. He even mentioned that that was one of the best projects in the country. What has changed?
There's a new minister.
A new minister. Yeah. So when there's a new minister, whatever that was good becomes bad.
Maybe they see things differently, Honorable.
This is a government project. It is not a private person's project. And so whether the place is beautiful, whether the place is bad, it's a government project. No minister should come and decide the way he wants.
So you are against that private partnership. If government decides that, well, you've said what you want, we are going ahead, what are you going to do?
I just said President Akufo-Addo has power, but I don't think he has power over every Ghanaian. He's the president, but we can look. We intend to report this matter to the police.
Oh, yes. Police?
Yes.
Yeah, you told me that.
Yes. I was supposed to. I was supposed to go there.
Why are you involving the police? Is this why? Is that
you saw the thievery there?
Yeah, so the police should go and look for the thieves who have stolen them.
And look, our intention is to even get the speaker. Look, that project must be investigated. Whoever that.
But the government is already investigating members of your party, including a colleague in parliament, who they accused of, changing the terms. Doing things illegally.
How long does it have to take President Akufo-Addo, who is a lawyer, to investigate a former minister?
So what government is doing that? You want to do another investigation into what exactly?
We are going to investigate into how people got access to the buildings and stole all the things. That is what we are going to investigate into. whoever that superintendent, the thievery, that person must be brought to book. It was a duty of someone to watch over the project. That person probably failed, or that person intentionally organized people to go and pick out whatever. Quality doors imported, glasses imported, very quality items. You saw the fittings. Probably a planting to devalue the project so that they can sell it at a very low distance to their client. You see, you keep talking about a private person. You go into this project, you get to know that it's a party member, it's a family member, or it's a friend to a family member.
Want to take over the project?
Yes. And that is why in my debate, I stated it clearly. I said, look, if they have written for sale on the project, they should better go and clean it, because we, as a minority, we will not sit down and watch them sell this project to their cronies. We won't allow that happen.
So we are still speaking to Honorable Andrew Dari Chiwiti. He is the deputy ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee. He's also the MP for Solar Tuna Kalba constituency. We've been talking about the budget. We've been discussing also the matter of Saglemi project, the project that is out there rotting, and they say they are completely against government's plan to go ahead and privatize that project. Honorable Andrew Chiwiti is also a member of another very key committee in Parliament, that is the Government Assurance Committee. And like I told you at the start of this conversation, he had filed a complaint against the roads minister for making some promise on constructing some roads in the area, which he says is now being completely cut off, and the roads minister hasn't done anything. I'll go into the substance of that. But Parliament was on break between the end of July and October, yeah, when they came back. And the Government Assurance Committee met on a number of occasions to consider some assurances that have been made by various ministers. Honorable, what has happened to that work that you did? The reports, you've been in for some time now.
Just this morning, the ranking, we met at a coffee shop, and he told me they were almost done with the reports. He said Honorable Bejira was going through the final document. Then we'll have the report late. And when we are debating it, that is where the issues will come up. You know, like you said, it's not common to summon a minister. At a point, I felt, no, we don't have to allow things to be happening this way. I think I filed questions on that particular road 3 good times. The minister will come, promise, and he will never fulfill the promises. Not only the roads minister, we have the energy ministry. I'm also here to bring that committee before ministry before the committee. We have the education ministry, almost all the ministries. They will come to the floor of Parliament, make so many promises. A government that is not delivering, yet every day when ministers come to answer questions, they come and make so many promises. And so for me, I felt that we need to put these people to check. We need to hold them, because they continue to say that to deceive our constituents. When they do that, our constituents think that we as representatives are not working. Meanwhile, you come, I don't hold the purse. Yes, I'm only supposed to help protect that purse.
And that is why government needs money. They say they want 2.5% VAT. You say you won't give it to them, but you want the road.
No. You see, like I said, Honorable Forson and Co have advised them. They've given them alternatives. As the finance committee members. I am not an expert there, so I will not be talking much about it. But Honorable, he has always hammered on it, and they've always given them alternatives. They want, you see, you don't remember that favorite, that popular saying by Honorable Aslausu, when she said, if governance was just about borrowing and her 16-year-old boy could rule the country, if it was just about taxing people, then we can all be presidents. Is that not the case? Yes. And so we are not preventing them from making money. There are other alternatives. We have told them, cut down the number of people you have at the presidency. They are not willing to do that. The budget said they are not going to recruit people in 2023, but they have already, I'm sure they've already even submitted their names for the recruitment. And so they have increased their numbers. How come that you are not cutting down the numbers? You are not cutting down your budget. You are not cutting down the number of times you travel. You are not cutting down the long convoys that follow you to commission toilets and then I don't know, boreholes. You are not cutting down those things, and you think that you should burden Ghanaians with taxes. Like I said, Dr. Baumia came to my constituency. to commission a private person.
You referenced him a lot in your debate. I saw that the speaker said, move away from that. You were still mentioning Dr.
Yeah, I was still mentioning Dr. Bawumia because Dr. Bawumia, he chairs the economic management team. Was he not the one who described the team as a wonderful team? And so if that man chairs that strong and wonderful team, and he came with a budget that he ran away from, you know, for the past years...
The majority that offered an explanation says at the time the vice president was acting president.
He was acting...
He had to deal with that.
Yes,
issues.
he was acting president. That was the more reason why he should even come and sit in, because the budget was presented on behalf of the president. And so if he was acting president and it's usual of him to always be present on the budget day, that day he could have come to sit down.
So
and then
he didn't come, you think he ran away?
He ran away. And you see, 2022 budget, when I was debating, I indicated that budget was anti-Bawumia. And then this time around, this budget is equally anti-Bawumia. You see, Dr. Bawumia has always professed certain things, but when they bring the budget, it's always the opposite. So it tells you that he's not on top.
Is the economic management team chair?
He is the leader of the economic management team. He listed the members and described them as a wonderful team. And that wonderful team, the representative will be coming to present the budget, then you stay away from it, you the chairman, and you think that we should not talk about it. Right. I think I was right for mentioning him every second. Yes.
So I mean, so back to that committee report on the government, on the government assurances committee.
Yeah.
Expect the report to be.
The report will be late. Yes, the report will be late. According to my ranking, the report will be late and then to be taken.
You want to send a message out there to minister that you can come to the floor.
Sure.
Okay. One other matter.
And you know, that day I asked the roads minister a question concerning the Azim Town roads. Yeah. Yes, I asked him whether he was prepared to put his job on the line, and he said yes. That the roads in Azim Town are not completed, and so the report will be presented to the speaker. I will personally make the speaker aware that this was what your minister said before your committee. If speaker thinks the man could still come before the committee and make such strong promises and still not deliver, and we still allow him go, then that one, my hands will be tied. Okay.
Maybe briefly on Speaker Bagbin.
Yeah.
Your side, you fought tooth and nail to get Mr. Bagbin elected as Speaker of Parliament. Ghanaians remember the scenes in Parliament on the 9th of 6th January 2021. Will you say that you've gotten any good in return? They also say that it's almost like you are orphan still, because on some substantive occasions, the Speaker has ruled against your side. Yeah. You did not want the censure committee to be formed. The Speaker formed it. Yeah. You elected a speaker, but you are still orphans. It's as though you are still under Michael Quay.
Oh, Michael Quay. You see, we cannot describe this speaker to be like Michael Quay.
But you're not getting any victories.
Oh, you see, the speaker is not there just to give the ND side victories. And I don't think the speaker has also given us...
undeserved victories.
Yes. You see, he's a human being. You can't get him to think the way you think. And as the chair of the House, and a very reasonable human being, and the caliber of person that he is, being in Parliament for all these years, the longest serving parliamentarian, he knows so much about the parliamentary work. His conscience will not set him right to do certain things that he thinks are not the way it should be done. And so for me, I would say so far so good. And I don't regret for voting for him. And I think our side, we don't regret for voting for him because we made history. No matter what happens, it will continue to be history. No one can erase that.
No one can erase that. So, I mean, before we wrap up this, it's end of year. What is your message to the constituents, Sola, Tuna, Kaba? They put you here, this is your second term. What is your message to them? If you can look into the camera and give us your message for Christmas and end of year.
Times are indeed hard. Very difficult, even for widows who take salary. Widows who are in Parliament representing you, we know how difficult it is. All I will say is they should be patient with us. 2024 will soon come. And when 2024 comes, I encourage all of them to be strong, come out in their numbers. Let's vote massively for the NDC, Jomama, to come back to power. So that 2025 will come and change things. I know Christmas comes with a lot of burdens, especially for we parents. Let's talk with our children. Let them know that President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia have created this hardship for us, but they should be patient with us. The little that you have, share. God willing, things will get better.
Okay,
yes.
So I've been in conversation with Honorable Andrew Dari Chiwite. He's the second-term member of Parliament for Sola Tuna Kalba constituency. He's a member of the Government Assurances Committee. He's also a member of the Works and Housing Committee. Actually, the deputy ranking member on he's the second in command in terms of the minority MPs on that committee. He's been discussing the budget, Saglemi, and a host of other important issues in Parliament. Maybe Honorable briefly before maybe 10 seconds. Between Honorable Johnson and Sedun Ketia and for example, who are you rooting for?
I don't have a candidate.
You don't have a candidate. But you vote. 17, you go there, you go and vote.
Sure, I'll vote.
So you listen to the messages, but you don't have one that
I don't have one. I don't have one.
Right.
I don't have one. I cannot go without saying a word in my language to my people.
Exactly.
Yes. So that's when I call them. Noina, yellow hormone, Sibiaka, Setronale, and Seka speaker, Setron. Bonus and Swareka, Idi can you na cose. Nango Consoja Kanji, Nango Consoja and Javor. A G Pamana and Che Center Kanjir. Sentonta Jilo Sembor. I could 2024 no one. Fonya Ja ne Biasola Tona Calva. Tarkanjir. Na fu yidene. Afu popo. Afu bibir. Sebonka G Pamana. For Tom Mala lefon Bora Yuna Brunya. And Chafon Tarkanjir. Namolo Horma. Sentana Jilo Sembocasichin. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, thank you very much, you viewers, as well, for watching. We'll be bringing you a series of these interviews this festive period, and I hope you enjoy this one. My name is Kweku Asante. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Welcome back on the AM show, and thousands of revelers filled across pubs and streets as they joined the rest of the world to welcome the new year with fireworks, dancing and music. Many of them said they wanted the economy to get back on track for a better celebration this year. Well, here's my colleague Maxwell Agbagbe's report with a wrap of those celebrations.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And this is our patrons here at the Independence Square welcome the new year with marvelous and spectacular fireworks and drumming. The people here cannot hold back their joy and excitement. Hi, what's your name?
I'm John Michael.
John Michael, tell me, how excited are you?
Well, it's pretty nice. Like, this is one of the best fireworks that's been shown over the last couple of years. Okay. This is good. Really good. For 2023, I'm just going to live my life to the fullest. Like I keep saying, Ugo City Vie, get out, live life. Like, don't do tomorrow what can be done today. Yeah. So we're living life to the fullest. Same as always.
You only live once. You only live once.
True.
Yeah.
The guy wants to.
A 2021 report by the Ghana Tourism Authority noted that over 600,000 tourists were in Ghana in the year 2021, with $800 million of revenue raked in by government. Of course, the peak of that happened in December, and that is happening again in December 2022, when we had a lot of people from the diaspora visiting Ghana. Many of them are here at the Independence Square having fun at the Countdown Africa program happening here at the Independence Square. They've been sharing with us the New Year resolution and their expectations for the year 2023.
Happy New Year from Ghana. We love Ghana.
You having a good time?
A great time.
Where did you come from?
Miami.
Miami.
Mexico.
Mexico. Oh.
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay.
Atlanta.
Oh, okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's fine. That's okay. Right?
New York, but I just want to give a shout out to all my Dominican people all over the world. Listen, we got
Dominicans in the house. Dominicans in the house.
so, Dominicanas in Ghana, okay? Dominicanas in Ghana. And let me tell you something. Dominicanas in Ghana. Okay? One more thing. It's about time our Latin people come to Africa to learn about your African roots, okay?
Everybody, let's go. I like that. Any New Year resolutions you want to share with us? New Year resolution?
Not a resolution, but an intention, harmony, and manifestation in 2023.
More love, more respect, more happiness.
Okay, I see that. Thank you. Where are you from?
Chicago. Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Chicago in the building. Okay. What's your name?
Michaela.
Are you having fun?
Yeah.
Do you like it in Ghana?
Yeah.
First time in Ghana?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Are you doing it again?
Maybe.
That's so disappointing. Why? Why maybe?
I don't know.
You don't like it here?
Yeah, I like it here.
Okay. So you're not sure whether you come back?
Right.
Okay. Any New Year resolution?
Pray more, worry less.
Hi. What's your name?
Chris.
Chris. L. Where are you from?
New York. We're in
New York.
Queens in the house.
New York in the house.
Yes, sir.
Are you Brooklyn? Are you loving it here?
Yeah, we're loving it in Ghana, for real. Loving it in Ghana.
Having a good time?
Great time, yeah. Yeah, blast, man. Having a blast, man. It's my third time coming down. First time in Ghana.
First time
in Ghana.
Whoa!
Yeah, love it, love it. I'm coming back next year and the year after that, the year after that, every year. Hey, yes, sir. First time in Accra, man. I've been in Africa plenty of times, but it's my first time in Ghana, though. I'm coming back. Coming back. Yes, sir.
Any New Year resolution? Any New Year resolution?
Yes. More life, more money, more blessings for everybody. Everything he just said times 10.
Thank you.
I just want to do it on the seat, my dear. I think it's all a good idea. And then you give me the look, my dear. Couple, tell him one time. Fucking money to sit down and come and run corner. Still, couple, my name is Van Jana. Who wanted to put up on the wood and come and women if you never come and go, I shoot gonna. Hallelujah.
Well, it looks like a mini dance party that is going on here. Let's talk to them. Let's talk to them.
Happy New Year.
Many happy returns.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. What's 2022 like for you? Was it good?
It was good. Could have been better, but I'm optimistic about 2023 for sure. Yeah.
Definitely gonna be better.
Looking forward to it.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing too?
I'm well.
Great. What's your
Happy
name?
New Year.
Many happy returns. Many happy returns. What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Buki. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria.
Oh, Buki. Okay. Nice to meet you.
And you too.
My West African sister.
Yes, my brother.
Hope you're having fun though.
I'm having a great time. It's lovely to be in Accra for New Year, for Christmas. It's lovely.
Yeah. What was 2022 like for you?
2022 was a learning curve for me, and I think it was for everyone.
But we're all looking forward to 2023. Manifestation of good things, good life, great health, business, personal life, love, all of the good things. So,
And then soft life.
Soft life for sure.
Strictly soft life. Okay. Thank you, Buki. Yeah. Let me see if I can talk to your friend. Hi, what's your name?
Natalie.
Natalie. Okay. Also from Lagos?
No.
Where are you from?
I'm Ghanaian.
Oh, from Ghana. Yeah. Oh, my Ghana sister.
Yeah, but don't ask me to speak tree because I can't.
No, I'm not asking you to speak. Oh, that's your daughter. Okay. I like this. This is good. This is good. You're having a good time with mommy, huh?
Of course.
Oh, I like that. You make me miss my mom so much.
Call her.
Yeah.
New Year. Yeah.
Any plans for 2023 New Year resolution?
More prayer. Working harder to make more money.
More money. Okay.
And at Bontin, we outside.
Oh, at Bontin. We are outside right now.
Yes, sir.
We want to be outside in 2024.
Yes.
In 2025.
Yes.
In 2026.
Yes.
All the way to 2019.
Oh, yeah, we can continue.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. More chilling. Let's go to the other side. Happy New Year. Many happy returns. Many happy returns. What's your name?
My name is Dion.
Dion. Okay, where are you from?
London.
Oh, from London. London.
Yes, I'm in Ghana. London. Shapa, everybody. Happy
Hope you're having fun here.
I'm having an amazing time. It's amazing. My first time in Ghana, and it has been spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Yeah. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. 2023, any expectations for 2023?
I have no expectations, but I'm going to live life to the full. I'm going to just live life to your full. Every moment is so precious. We've lost so many people in 2022, so choose your time wisely, spend it with people who you love and who you want to see going forward. So, Happy New Year.
Hi.
Oh, hi. I'm from Shapa, everybody. I'm from Shapa.
I think
Oh.
What's 2022 like for you?
Oh, it was a blessed. It was a blessed. Stressful, but blessed. I'm looking forward to all the blessings in 2023.
Okay, great. Have a good time.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Sarkodie on stage right now performing. Oh, where are you from?
I'm from the UK.
UK? Oh, okay, great. Hope you're having a good time here in Ghana.
Absolutely amazing in Ghana. My first time.
Oh, okay. I see. Tell me, any plans for 2023 New Year resolution?
Oh my God, 2023 is just open for all opportunities, prosperity, wealth, health, abundance. I think there's a change happening in the world, and I'm about a part of that change, for sure.
Great. Continue having fun, and make sure you come back.
Ghana, absolutely amazing country, and thank you for leading the way for the diaspora and open up your arms for us to come home. So all diaspora, come home. Africa is beautiful, absolutely amazing.
We love you too. We love you. We love you. Yeah. Okay.
Welcome back on the AM show. It's a holiday. We're taking it a bit easy. We have one final package for you before we wrap, but we do know water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions, 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags. 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 litres for those who always want more. We've also introduced our special 19-litre jars for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So come on, grab your bottle of Awake Water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, just call 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. Now let's talk the Ghana Revenue Authority, which wishes to inform the public that persons wishing to apply for tax clearance certificates should do so online via taxpayersportal.com. That is taxpayersportal.com, or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on Google Play Store or the App Store. Applicants who visit our taxpayer service centers will be assisted by the officers of the authority to apply. Applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number, that is TIN, of the institution or organization requesting the certificate so that they can receive a copy. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. All you have to do if you need further information, just reach out to the GRA on toll-free number 0800 900 110. That is 0800 900 110. Via WhatsApp numbers 0552 990 000 or 0200 631 664. Or you could send an email to the GRA at gra.gov.gh for further inquiries. Staying with the GRA, it also wishes to inform the general public, especially persons registered for value-added tax, that the Domestic Tax Revenue Division has commenced the implementation of an electronic invoicing system, a VAT, referred to as EVAT. All you have to do, reach out to the VRA on toll-free number 0800 900 110, via WhatsApp on the same number 0552 990 000 or 0200 631 664 for further inquiries. Before we come through with our final package, let's salute a few of you who are celebrating your birthdays today. We share in your joy. Happy birthday to Mrs. Lucy Aku Bedra. Mrs. Lucy Aku Bedra. It's from Martin Bedra to you, Lucy Aku Bedra. Enjoy the best of the day. We also have Prince Apia of Love FM, our colleague in Kumasi. Today happens to be your birthday. Celebrate in style. We wish you the very, very best. Interesting. 2nd day of January. We celebrate you. But as we cap off today's installment of the AM show, and boy, hasn't it been quite a journey. Hope you enjoyed it. There's still more to enjoy before we wrap. Drive safe with yours truly. And we have a lot more coming your way that you want to stay for. On that note, that's how we cap off the AM show for today. Look forward to tomorrow. But now, enjoy Drive Safe. Hello there. Welcome again aboard Drive Safe. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I know for certain when you board whatever vehicle or when you drive, you want to stay alive, right? You want to stay safe. And you don't want to have an accident because it could also take someone else's life. Well, that's why we have this segment called Drive Safe. So we can all stay safe and not get affected by the carnage we see on our roads. In the last few years, it's been terrible. Well, we can all help change the story. That's why we're here again at Top Tech Transport and Logistics to have a conversation. It's part 3 of our conversation on the causes of road crashes. But today, we're upping the ante a bit. We're going to be looking at long vehicles or heavy-duty vehicles and the loads they carry. Sometimes even they overload. That poses a threat to other road users. Sometimes these drivers of these long vehicles are also very reckless in the way they drive, also posing a threat to other road users. Today, we focus on that and what we can do to mitigate the situation. But first, so you think you know, here's today's road sign. Okay, so we've seen it. If you think you know the answer, just keep it in mind, and at the tail end of today's segment, we'll give you the correct answer. Then you'll find out whether you did know or didn't know. But right now, let me say hello once more to Cecil Gabra, CEO, Top Tech Transport and Logistics. Hiya.
Thank you.
The look you gave. So a very serious matter. Long vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles, they also have their own limits, but a lot of them overload. In fact, sometimes you see MTTD officers there, And you see, there was a time when I was heading towards La Paz, this vehicle. I mean, the vehicle was not properly balanced, skewed towards one end, Alacha. Long vehicle with loads of, I've forgotten whether it was, I think it was wood and all of that. And they watched it pass by. All of us could tell this was a hazardous situation. We see these time and again, and sometimes too, they bully their way, saloon vehicles, they'll be coming. I mean, if you stay, it's your vehicle that will be impacted. So let's talk about those ones as well. What does the law say, and what can we do to ensure our own safety?
Well, we have height limits, we have weight limits for all these long vehicles, okay? Talking about, let's say for instance, height limit, right? The commonest ones that we can see, I'll say around East Legon, you have a bridge which is constructed at 5 meters.
Right.
Now you are
Those
not
are
supposed to.
ones, even if
yes.
not there. I think some stretches on Tema and other places, it's usually 5 meters.
Yes, it's 5 meters or 4.5 meters. The real fact is that we have height limits, we have weight limits, which is instituted in the highway code. Okay. The most common one that we all know is 4.5 meters. That's the height limit, right? Which means that you, the long vehicle driver or the loaders, must know that your limit must be about 4 meters. But because of greediness, they will try to load and get to about 4.4 so that they can easily go under the bridge. If you look at the motorways bridge, that's the Ashiaman area, it is being reconstructed because a lot of trucks load beyond the 4.5 and then hit it.
Right.
Okay, and sometimes I wonder what our enforcers are doing. Some of them will also stop, offload for the truck to go under, and then they go and reload, thinking that they will not meet any bridge again. Right, but then I am saying that road safety can generate a lot of income for our country. If we see this and then the law enforcers will take it up quickly, I think that is it. Right. So you are not supposed, every bridge has got its limit, 4.5 meters load. If you talk about weights, right, we have the weights for every truck depending on the cubic capacity of the long vehicle that you need to load.
Tonnage for some
Precisely, that's the tonnage. Right, so you don't load above that tonnage, and that is why you have the axle bridges, which is set up by Ghana Highways and I think the Ministry of Transportation, that occasionally we have the mobile type that can stop everywhere and say, okay, Jack, Befaso, you should come and pass through. And then when you stop and they see it, you'll be arrested. But you know what happens. It's also an issue. And then still talking about the height limit, we have our laws that are being broken by some of these vehicles from Mali, Burkina Faso, and so on. And then even, let me just mix it up to talk about the 6 o'clock issue as well. That in the past, when it is 6 o'clock, every truck will have to park because of visibility and because of accidents. But now, because of the ECOWAS rules that we had to also sign, okay, the trucks can move freely, if it's even 6, 7, 8 at any time. Right, it's up to the driver's responsibility to say, oh, I'm tired, let me stop somewhere to rest. And sometimes they don't even stop well, they stop somewhere in the middle of the road, and that also causes a lot of accidents. So apart from everything, I have been an advocate for what we call the transport audits in this country. Okay, where if there's an opportunity, I'll talk about what it really means, and that is going to save a lot more of accidents that we see. I'm talking about the long vehicles and buses, right? If there's time, I can chip this in and say.
So very quickly, because I also want us to talk about how reckless they can be sometimes. A lot of them feel they are so big, and so they bully everyone else because they know that if you are in your posh or nice saloon car, you wouldn't want to get scratched. So once they veer towards you, I mean, they do it. You see the oil companies, their tankers, do it. I mean, sometimes they are almost hemming you in, and it's practically because they feel if there's anything, you will be affected. We will not be affected. And it creates a lot of anxiety for road users as well. But you can chip in the bit you wanted to talk about, and then also wrap with how we can regulate some of these activities.
Let me talk about what you just said before I go to the audit. Now, what needs to be done is that, now, first of all, you should know that the driver driving the big truck is also as scared as the driver driving the small trucks. Well, the issue is that most of those drivers, and I'll say some of those drivers rather, drive under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Who checks that? Okay, they don't care. They will do everything that they want to get to their destinations, especially at a U-turn. And I always tell people who drive ordinary vehicles or saloon vehicles that they need to be very careful not to squeeze play. And what is a squeeze play? A big truck is doing its U-turn, and then you, a saloon vehicle, because there's some space at the inner, side of the road, you try to be, yeah, that's what is called squeeze play. So if they see you doing any squeeze play, they become quite aggressive and say, oh, driver, you may show, no, right? So they turn faster, and then they will not look behind them. This is what happens. But they should know that road safety is for you and me. They mustn't play any wicked game. It is for us to arrive alive in one piece and not in pieces at any time. And that is why I always say that if you're a very good driver, you're a defensive driver, you must always carry your coats along. What is this coat? Concentration, observation, alertness, and tolerance. That is all what we all need as defensive drivers, so that we'll arrive in one piece. Right. Now, talking about transport audit, okay, and then this goes to, I'll have a very good chat with National Road Safety Authority about it, that we need a transport audit for our buses. They're also part of the long vehicles. They carry a lot of load. And what am I talking about? We need to find out the type of vehicle that we are using. It's not all vehicles that can be used as buses. Some of them have been man-made, and the calibrations have gone so wrong. I can't mention those buses. Right. And you carry weights, you carry people in those buses, it is really dangerous, right? So if we have the engineers going to such firms like OA, STC, I know is the best, whether we like it or not. And other stations, I think you can even mention them that are operating.
There's VIP.
VIP, all of them. We need a transport audit. Okay, and this transport audit will take care of the human being. Who drives who? Is the driver qualified? In most cases, they have the license B, but they are driving an F, which is the bus. Okay, if you want to drive the bus, you need an F. There are categories in A, B, C. Yes, precisely, and it takes a lot of number of years. So the human being. What about the vehicle? What about the engine? What about the seats? A lot of companies fixing iron angle seats in their buses, which is so wrong. It adds a lot of weight to the bus, and that is what is creating a lot of accidents. And I'm also saying, let's remove all those TV sets and rather extend the speedometer cables, okay? So that people will see that this driver is driving more than 80, that's a stipulated speed limit for buses, 80 kilometers per hour. If you are focused and you are looking at a speedometer than watching the TV, the driver cannot trick you. So audit, that's really what I want to do, transport audit.
Right. Well, that's something that I guess it's a gradual process, and by we'll get there. But thank you once more, Cecil, for the education, for enlightening us on all of these matters. Well, right before we cap off today's segments, the final part of road crashes for now, here's the answer to today's quiz question. And if you didn't know, now you know. Thank you for staying with us on Drive Safe. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Let's catch up on the next one.